Good morning. You are attending the Animal Control Commission hearings for July 6th, 2020. The Animal Control Commission was established and is conducted in accordance with Article 12 of the Arundel County Code. These are administrative hearings, and by nature they are informal, which means you are not hampered by rules of evidence. However, please be aware that you are still testifying under oath. Each party will have their opportunity to state their case. After each party states their case, they will have an opportunity to ask questions of the other party. Please do not interrupt the other party. You will be given ample time to talk. In many cases, we are aware that there is a history. You may briefly tell the commission about the history. However, please focus on the issue at hand. After each case, the commission will have open deliberations. During these deliberations, the public may not participate. If the commissioners have an additional question, you may answer that question. No further information will be heard and a decision will be rendered. This decision is a recommendation to the chief of police or his representative. The recommendation of the commission will be taken into consideration and a final decision will be made by the chief of police or his designated representative. If, as the defendant in this case, you are unhappy with the decision of the commission, you may appeal. For citation cases, appeals are taken through the District Court of Maryland. For administrative orders, potentially dangerous, or vicious orders, appeals are heard through the County Board of Appeals. Before we call the first case, I just want to mention this is the first time we've done this. While we have been practicing and done a couple test runs, there may be glitches, so please bear with us and we will get this straightened out. Philip, please call the first case.
The first case we'll be hearing is Animal Care and Control versus Robert Holcomb Jr. for the appeal of vicious order for Bishop the dog. All parties who have an interest in this case who wish to testify, if you would utilize the raise hand feature either at the bottom of the screen or through the manage participants button down at the bottom. I'll bring you in one by one and I will ask you to state your name and address for the record. So let's see here. Bringing in Mark Palmer here.
Mr. Chairman, I will be recusing myself from this case based on a former connection several years ago.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
All right, asking Mr. Palmer to unmute himself. Mr. Palmer, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
All right, if you would state your name and address for the record.
My name is Mark Palmer. My address is 6411 Ivy Lane, Suite 500, Greenbelt, Maryland. And I am Mr. Holcomb's attorney.
Perfect. All right.
Philip, why can't we see Mr. Palmer?
He may not have video enabled.
I do.
Oh.
There we go.
There he is. Thank you, sir. All right. I'm going to bring everyone in, get them to state their name and addresses, and then I'll swear them all in at the same time. So give me just 1 second. We have Latoya Condra, bringing her in. Asking that she unmute herself.
Philip?
Yes, sir.
I can only see so many photos on the screen, even though it says 25 participants. Can you verify that we have a quorum?
I currently see Elizabeth, yourself, Ed, Lieutenant Ravenel. That would be the 4.
Okay, Mark, Tom's substitute or proxy isn't here?
I do not see Gregory. Nor has he reached out to me.
Okay.
Just a reminder, I am recused from this case.
Right, but I just want to make sure we have quorum.
Pointedly. Then we only have 3 with her being recused.
Exactly, that's right.
All right, if you would give me 1 second, let me reach out. He did provide a contact number here.
think Elizabeth said she'd be running a little late this morning.
That would be Stephanie, not Elizabeth.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. That's right.
All right, so Gregory is here and looks like Stephanie is as well. They were hiding as attendees. I'm bringing them up as panelists now. So we are good. We have quorum. And
Thank
then,
Can you update their titles too?
yes, sir, I will get them square. And then thank you, Ms. Latoya, if you would state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Latoya Condra. My address is 707 Kingfisher Road, Deal, Maryland.
Thank you kindly. Please
You're
wait
welcome.
1 minute. We'll get you all sworn in at the same time once we get everybody in here. Appreciate everybody's patience.
This was addressed to my son. He's with me. He's the one that actually had the dog at the time.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. And then we have Jay Lucia, bringing her up. Asking she unmutes. Ms. Lucia, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Okay.
We can. And if you would state your name and address for the record.
Jane Lucia, 5884 Deal, Churchton Road.
Thank you kindly. Just hang out for 1 second and I'll get you sworn in a moment. And then Mr. Holcomb doesn't have his hand up, but I know he is pertinent. Let me get him in here as well. And then just a reminder, anyone else who's looking to testify in this case, Animal Care Control versus Robert Holcomb Jr. for the appeal of vicious order for Bishop, please do utilize the raise hand feature down at the bottom of the screen so that way I know to add you in here. Oh, Tom Fruit as well. Perfect. Just a moment, Mr. Pruitt. Let me get Mr. Holcomb here. Not seeing any audio from Mr. Holcomb as enabled. Mr. Holcomb, can you hear us? Nope. Let's see.
Hey, Phil, I see a message that says Tom Pruitt wants to testify. Do you have him?
Yes, he has his hand up. I'm trying to sort Mr. Holcomb
Okay.
first.
You want me to try to do Tom?
We can certainly bring him up in the meantime. Let me promote him to a panelist. Get his name square here.
Folks, we really appreciate your patience. This is our first one of these.
All right, asking Mr. Pruitt to unmute himself.
Hello?
All right, we can hear you, sir. If you would please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Thomas Lee Robert Pruitt. I live at 701 Kingfisher Road, Deal, Maryland, 20751.
Thank you, sir. And once we get Mr. Holcomb in, we'll swear everyone in, though I'm still not seeing an audio device as being enabled for him.
All right, well, why don't we go ahead, Officer Thomas, can you go ahead and state your name and address while Phil's working on that?
Sure, it's Officer Serena Thomas with Animal Care and Control, 411 Maxwell Fry Road, Millersville, 21108.
Thank you.
Thank you. me see if I can get him on the line here.
Still got your video on, John. They're watching you. Hey, John?
Yes.
They're watching you on video.
What's that?
They're watching you popping up. Yeah,
It's not possible.
I was just watching you. I'll call you and come see you. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it.
Not even logged on my phone. So if I go to the other room, I can't see you.
There you are, right there.
It's a different guy. The guy's name is Phil. These are all different people.
Oh, I thought it was you. I'm sorry.
All right, Mr. Holcomb is having computer difficulties. He is going to call in, so I'm going to keep an eye out for his number here. Robin, if you would go to the attendee section, it's 6860. Mr. Holcomb, for some reason, I can't invite him into chat. Might be a host versus a co-host issue.
Hang on a second, Phil. She stepped out of the room.
Leslie or Chris, if you're in here, it's the number ending in 680.
Yeah.
If you could invite them into chat.
Doing it now for you, Phil.
I appreciate you.
Should be able to speak now.
Can you hear us, Mr. Holcomb?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Perfect. We can hear you. And if you would, for the record, state your name and address.
Robert Holcomb, 5954 Rockhole Drive, Deal, Maryland, 20751.
Thank you so much. And everyone who just stated their name and address for the record, do you declare and affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
We do. We do.
Perfect. Thank you all. All right. So we're going to now place the panelists back into the attendee section. We will start in on the case. Give us just 1 second.
Did you see Ron Marks wants to come in?
Ron Marks.
He sent a chat.
I don't have a Ron Marks on the attendees section here.
Maybe.
Check.
A witness to the Holcomb case. He's connected but doesn't hear anything, nor can he speak with anyone.
Yeah, he is not
Right.
in the list of attendees, so that might be a connection problem.
Let me see if I can send him a message and ask.
I know he's out of town. I talked to his son yesterday. He planned to be part of this meeting.
We hear you. We're just trying to figure out how to get him in because we see that message. I don't see how to.
Here he is. He's popped back up. I'm going to promote him into panelist. Here we go. And ask that he unmute.
And then Phil, don't forget, you're gonna have to swear him in. You're doing great.
Yes.
Phil. Everybody, I'd just like to say thank you to Phil, who has been learning Zoom crazily and trying to help us manage this. This is all new to everybody. We really appreciate your patience with us as we try and get through this so we can keep everybody's cases moving forward.
Thank you, Robin. All right, Mr. Marks, can you hear us? Mr. Marks? I see he's got audio enabled, but I'm not hearing anything. Still nothing for Mr. Marks. All right, let me see if I can get a good contact number here. All right, so more computer issues. He's going to call in. We're going to get him score. All right, if one of my wonderful co-hosts would add in the number ending in 8707 to be able to chat. We'll get Mr. Marks sworn in here.
Can we rename
Yes,
as
hello,
well, Philip?
Yes, it must be a host thing because it's not giving me the option to rename them either. Okay, 8707 is Ronald Marks, MARX.
And I'm here and I can hear you.
Perfect, sir. Thank you. If you would state your name and address for the record.
My name is Ronald Marks, MARX, and my address is 5918 Rockhold Drive, Deal, Maryland, 20751.
Thank you, sir. And do you declare and affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Philip or Robin, I think you've got Mr. Ronald Marks mislabeled. It should be Mr. Holcomb, I believe. You got two Ronald.
Can you spell Holcomb for me, please?
Holcomb. And let me just double check that. That's 6860. The number ending in 6860 is Mr. Holcomb. 8708 or 8707 is Mr. Marks.
Okay, Philip, are we ready to get started?
I believe we are. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and mute everyone involved until we call upon them. And we will ask them to unmute as we come around.
Okay, are we ready for the complainant?
Yes, sir, you can go live.
Okay, complainant, please state your case.
Hi, it's Officer Thomas and stuff. I'm going to start, and I do apologize, everyone. This is quite a long case that we're dealing with as far as Bishop is concerned. Bishop is a 3-year-old black and tan Doberman involved in multiple incidences. This is a vicious order that is being heard today. Bear with me. There is a lot to read here. Hopefully everyone has chimed in and can hear me. On October 20th, 2017, Animal Care and Control received a call from Mr. Tom Pruitt from Kingfisher Drive and Deal advising that his dog named Gus, a mixed breed, was attacked by 2 dogs, a Doberman and a lab type, owned by Mr. Robert Holcomb Jr. and Mr. Robert Holcomb Sr. The Doberman named Bishop, a black and tan 10-month-old at the time, owned by Mr. Holcomb Jr., and Pup Pup, a lab type, brown in color, owned by Mr. Robert Holcomb Sr. Dogs were loose in the front yard of 5949 Rockhold Drive, which belongs to Mr. Holcomb Sr. Mr. Pruitt's dog, Gus, sustained severe injury that required sutures when the 2 dogs ran off the property and attacked him. Mr. Holcomb Sr. advised the dog pulled from him when the incident occurred. On October 24, 2017, Mr. Holcomb Sr. brought both dogs into Animal Care and Control facility under the public safety investigation. On October 27, 2017, Animal Care and Control issued a dangerous order on Bishop and Pup Pup under the Anne Arundel County Code, Article 12.4.402, Public Safety, and Article 12.4.905, Animals at Large. The owners did file an appeal. On October 31st, 2017, inspection was completed at the property of Mr. Robert Holcomb Sr. of 5949 Rockhold Drive in Deal, and both Mr. Holcomb Sr. and Holcomb Jr. were in compliance at the property. The dogs were then released from our care. November 6, 2017, Animal Care Control Commission heard an appeal case of Mr. Robert Holcomb Sr. and Robert Holcomb Jr. from the October 20th, 2017 incident and the dangerous orders that were issued. Recommendations of the commissions was to uphold the orders in its entirety. On November 6, 2017, the chief of police and signed by the administrator of Animal Care and Control upheld the dangerous orders on Bishop and Pup Pup in its entirety. Excuse us. So in September 2019, Animal Care and Control received a call from Muddy Creek Vet Hospital reporting a bite exposure report that Mr. Holcomb Jr. was bitten by a client's dog named Tyke, a Jack Russell that was severely injured by Mr. Robert Holcomb Jr.'s dog Bishop, a Doberman, during the attack. Mr. Holcomb Jr. was injured when he picked up Tyke. During the investigation, Mrs. Latoya Condra of 707 Kingfisher Road in Deal, the owner of Tyke, advised that her son John, who was 12 years old at the time, was walking their Jack Russell on a leash, and the Doberman owned by Mr. Holcomb Jr. was loose, not muzzled or on a leash, and attacked Tyke, causing severe injury, which had to be sutured and drains were placed. Mr. Holcomb Jr. was contacted about the incident when Animal Care and Control Officer Fabrizi responded out to 5949 Rockhold Drive. Mr. Holcomb Jr. advised Officer Fabrizi that Bishop was heading back to the breeder in Phoenix, Pennsylvania. He was very hostile at the time in speaking with him. At some research, Mr. Holcomb advised Timbertail Kennels. I, Officer Thomas, found the breeder in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, called Kimbertall Kennels, contacted them, inquired on information to Mr. Holcomb Jr. and the dog Bishop. Kimbertall advised that yes, the dog was sold to Mr. Holcomb, and no, he did not bring the dog back or a driver picking up the dog. And Bishop should have an inner thigh tattoo for all their dogs, are tattooed. On September 16, 2019, spoke to Mr. Robert Holcomb Jr. via the phone with the administrator, Robin Catlett, who was asked about the incident and Bishop's whereabouts since he advised to the field officer that he is back with the breeder. Mr. Holcomb Jr. was adamant that we were not getting his dog and advised that his dog is deceased, stated that there is no laws pertaining of killing his own animal, and he put a slug in his dog and then advised that his friend in Virginia had the dog and the dog is buried there. He gave the information of his friend, which is a David Goodman of 28190 on Officer Road in Rhodesville, Virginia in Orange County, and gave his phone number. On September 17, 2019, during the investigation, I, Officer Thomas, received a call from Mr. Goodman. He advised that he took the dog Bishop for his friend, Mr. Robert Holcomb Jr., and the dog was killed due to it didn't get along with his dog, and he shot the dog. I advised Mr. Goodman that I was not sure his laws were pertaining to killing of a dog. Mr. Goodman then seemed nervous. I explained that we needed confirmation that the dog is deceased. Mr. Goodman gave his email, and I sent him an email to get confirmation. I then contacted Angie Bonner, which is the animal control officer of Orange County, Virginia, minutes later after speaking with Mr. Goodman. I informed her of the incident and what was present to us about the shooting of the dog and the dog's description, and advised that we needed confirmation that the dog was deceased and buried on his property or alive. On September 18, 2019, I received an email from Mr. Robert Holcomb Jr. advised to see the attached photos of his deceased Doberman Bishop, as well as the breeder paperwork showing his tattoo number. The pictures reflected a Doberman type dog, black and tan, on a blanket type material showing like the dog is deceased with dirt. He also sent papers from the breeder showing the tattoo, which he showed in the photo of the tattoo of a tattooed forearm of a person pointing to the location of the tattoo on the dog. Officer Bonner from Orange County, Virginia, then contacted and advised she went out to the area, did a drive-by, realized that the home for Mr. Goodman is very far off the main road. Officer Bonner then advised through emails that she spoke to Mr. Goodman via the phone and advised of a warrant that can be obtained and search his property. And Mr. Goodman then advised that he did not kill the dog, that the owner never was there. Mr. Holcomb Jr. still his dog, that it was still in Maryland. I, Officer Thomas, then advised Officer Bonner that they should still search Mr. Goodman's property, that something was not right. On October 7, 2019, Officer Bonner of Orange County, Virginia, advising that she seen Mr. Goodman and allowed them to search his property. They looked over the property, which was consisted of 17 acres. 2 of them were wooded and could track through. Officer Bonner advised that there were no evidence of a burial of a dog. She even checked burn sites on the property with no evidence either. Mr. Goodman informed Officer Bonner that he believes the dog is still alive and in hiding. He explained that Mr. Holcomb Jr. loves his dog and he foresees not shooting his dog. No warrant was obtained at this time after speaking with Southern District Police detectives. However, the case was still open, advising that the dog was not at the property. On January 16, 2020 of this year, Animal Care and Control received a police report from Southern District Police Officer DePietro. Officer Petro advised in his report that he responded to 5918 Rock Drive in reference to an animal bite complaint. Upon his arrival, he met with the victim, Mr. Ronald Marks, whom advised that on January 15, 2020, at approximately 23:56 hours, which is 11:56 p.m., he was walking his 120-pound Alaskan Malamute named Demon in the area of Rockhole Drive near Gill Drive. During this time, a large Doberman entered the roadway from one of the adjacent properties and began attacking his dog Demon. Two dogs then began to fight. Mr. Marks attempted to kick the Doberman off Demon several times in an attempt to get the Doberman to disengage and flee. During the situation, the Doberman bit Mr. Marks' lower right calf. Eventually, the fight ended and the Doberman retreated back down Rockhole Drive. Officer DePietro advised upon speaking with Mr. Marks, it was learned that his dog is from 5954 Rockhole Drive, and he's very familiar with this dog, for it has attacked several dogs in the past and has a history of running free. Officer DePietro advised that he then had Mr. Marks ride with him to the area of 5954 Rockhole Drive to see if he could identify the dog. As they approached the residence, he observed a very large Doberman, greater than 100 pounds, running freely on Rockhole Drive. The dog retreated back to 5954's a yard and then eventually went to the right of the property and disappeared. Officer Petrie was able to awake the owner, who was identified as Robert Holcomb Jr. from his Maryland driver's license. The officer had Mr. Holcomb secure his dog in the house. Officer Petro advised that Mr. Holcomb seemed extremely upset and advised his dog was in the backyard when he had let him in. Officer Petro explained to him that he had personally seen the dog running free and retreat to the rear of his property. Mr. Holcomb then advised that he would take his dog to animal control in the morning, as he was aware of the procedure from the past issues. Officer DePietro advised that Mr. Marks, the victim, refused medical. He advised that there were new puncture wounds. He did explain of the pain, probably bruising tomorrow. He advised that his dog was not injured severely, however, limping, didn't feel that the Doberman was biting him intentionally. Mr. Marks did submit a statement that his dog sustained a minor wound, one puncture to his leg. On January 16, 2020, myself, Officer Thomas, and Southern District Police arrived with Robert Holcomb Sr., advised that why we were there and about the violation with his son's dog, Bishop. Mr. Holcomb advised that he was not aware of the incident. After speaking with supervisors and county police, a warrant was being drafted. Corporal Familia ID 1713 from Southern District Police advised Mr. Holcomb Sr. about the warrant that will be issued, that we needed his son to come home. Mr. Holcomb Sr. handed me his cell phone, and I spoke with Robert Holcomb Jr. via the phone. He stated that it was not Bishop because he was dead. It was his new dog named Rex. I asked him where was he? He stated that his dog ran off. I handed the phone back to his father. Mr. Holcomb Sr. then signed a consent form for us to search his home. During this search, no Doberman or Doberman-type dog was present on the property. Mr. Holcomb Sr. contacted his son via cell phone again, and his son was advised that a warrant would be issued and his door could be breached if not present. Mr. Holcomb Jr. was asked that he could sign a consent for us to search his home. Once Mr. Holcomb Jr. arrived at his home, Corporal Familia and Officer Ravel went into the home with Mr. Holcomb Jr. and spoke with him. A few minutes later, the corporal came out, advised me that the dog in question, Bishop, is in the home in the garage. At this time, I, Officer Thomas, went with the corporal back into the home and spoke with Mr. Robert Holcomb Jr. He was advised of the impoundment of his dog, Bishop, and why. We discussed the incidents with him even the prior back in September, and with the violation of the order, we were impounding as a dog. I explained to Mr. Holcomb Jr. that an investigation will be taking place. Mr. Holcomb Jr. was sarcastic in his demeanor, however cooperative. Robert Holcomb Jr. then took his dog Bishop after speaking for a while about the incidents and placed him in the van and signed all paperwork. He was advised of a possible upgrade of the original dangerous order to a vicious order and explained that if issued, he could appeal and would have to appeal to get him back. At this time, we left the area and headed back to the shelter. On January 16, 2020, the same day, Animal Care and Control contacted Mr. Holcomb Jr.'s vet, Muddy Creek, to obtain medical records on Bishop for the shelter. In obtaining these records, it showed that April 1st, 2019, they received a call from VCA South Arundel Vet Hospital inquiring about rabies vaccines for Bishop for he bit a small animal. BCA vet was contacted and learned that an incident client, Jane Lucia, from 5884 Deal Churston Road in Deal, brought her dog Chloe, a Jack Russell Terrier, in at 7:19 p.m. for treatment for being attacked by a Doberman who was off its leash. Miss Lucia was contacted via the phone and asked about the incident. She advised that yes, the incident was April 1st, 2019. She was walking her dog Chloe on a leash, and a loose Doberman belonging to Mr. Holcomb Jr. attacked her dog, and Chloe sustained severe injury to her side and rectum. Miss Lucia was asked to submit a statement. She did advise that she was asked both Senior and Junior Holcomb at the time of the incident if this was the same dog that attacked other dogs, and Mr. Holcomb Jr. replied yes. Mr. Holcomb was advised to submit a statement about the incident. Miss Lucia submitted her statement that advised that she was walking her dogs on a leash, Chloe being one of them. She walked up near the corner where the Doberman lives, and the dog was loose between the Holcomb's two residences. The Doberman was loose in the yard, ran at them, grabbing Chloe, picking her up and shaking her. She started kicking the Doberman. Finally, owner came and got the dog. She was in a state of shock. She advised, she asked him is this the same dog in the other incidents? And he said yes. She asked what vet they took their dog to. She then rushed her dog to the vet where she sustained severe injury to her side and rectum, multiple sutures and drains. Miss Lucia was advised it took a month for Chloe to heal. On January 22nd, 2020, after full review and discussion of the case file with the incidents that occurred from October 2017 through January 2020, including a violation of the dangerous order with the public safety violations with Bishop, it has been determined that Bishop cannot be safely maintained without threatening members of the public or other animals. Animal Care Control has issued a vicious order in accordance with Anne Arundel County Code 124402D 1 and 2 to keep the public and the others animals safe from any further attacks. And Chairman, I do believe that I have Mrs. Condra here. Ronald Marks, which is the most present incident of why the dog was impounded. I do believe Mrs. Lucia is here for her April incident. If we want to start with Mrs. Condra, actually Mr. Pruitt is here too. So Mr. Pruitt can start with his. He's the first incident that started all of this back in October of 2017. And then we can hear from the rest of the folks, if that's okay.
That's okay. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Pruitt?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, sir. If you wanted to add anything after what I've just explained, go ahead, sir.
Well, when that happened that morning to my dog, my son was walking him, and two dogs attacked him, Mr. Holcomb's dogs, and he had to keep kicking them off, and they didn't stop until they got to the corner of our street, which is Kingfisher, all the way down Rockhold Creek. These dogs are vicious. They just wouldn't stop. When he turned the corner, the dogs ran back. And what concerned my son was he ran through people's yards, not down the street. So I was out back cutting the grass. He came and got me. We immediately put my dog in the house, Gus, and we could tell he was bleeding, but we wanted to make sure that the owner knew. We knew who the owner was. We wanted to make sure he knew his dogs were loose. So we walked up, I knocked on the door. The owner did have the dogs back inside, and just a little, he was polite, but a little aloof about it, you know? And I said, well, your dogs attacked my dogs, and my son saw them in the yard with you, and the leashes were on the ground. You weren't holding them. And he apologized. And I said, well, I've called the police, just to let you know, from the time of my house to your house, I've called the police because this is dangerous. What if he attacked kids? And he said, oh, he wouldn't do that or something like that. So I said, well, I've called the police. And the police, in turn, they did a report and they called animal control. And that's when I got involved with animal control. And, I can tell you all the steps all the way through it. That day, I did have to take my dog to the vet. He was bleeding all over the house when I got home. I didn't realize he was bit that bad. He got 9 stitches. We had to take him back to the vet numerous times, probably for over a month and a half, easy. And And he's never been right since that. He's recently, I had to put him down because of issues of his health, just recently, a week ago. But anyway, I just think that these dogs are vicious. My son's a good sized guy. He's about 6'1". He said, I kept kicking those dogs off him, Tom, Dad, but every time I kicked one, the other one would attack on the other side. And of course, we've got a leash where it's not just a collar, it goes around his body. So he can't get away from us. And it's a good, strong leash. So he said, I didn't want our dog to fight with him. I just kept pulling him back. But long story short, I think these dogs are vicious, both of them, not just the Doberman, and that something needs to happen because obviously they're not going to watch these dogs. They're going to let them out whenever they want, and it's going to keep happening. Obviously, the facts show that. And, and after that, I don't know if you want to go into other stories. I had my gas tank sugar put into it. That was very expensive. After that, Mr. Holcomb Jr. stopped in front of the house talking to my son who was out there walking the dog on the leash at that time inside our fenced yard. And he made a threatening comment. My son says, well, I can just call the police. And he drove off. And the next thing you know, my son's being charged with the allegation that he threatened to burn down both Mr. Holcomb's son's house and his father's house. And that cost us attorney fees and everything else. So I've been through a lot through this, and it's been very expensive. It's been almost $3,500, and I just think that Mr. Holcomb shouldn't be owning a dog of any sort. He's not conscientious enough to take care of his pet, and in that case, it's endangering other people. That's what I have to say.
All right, Mr. Pruitt, thank you very much. Mrs. Condra, I know you have your son there with you. Can you hear me really well?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, ma'am. I didn't know if your son wanted to add anything in reference to his incident.
Not really.
No, do you want to add anything, Mrs. Condra?
Yes, the only thing that I would like to add was, well, of course, I wasn't there as we discussed. I was at work, but I just want to also state that, the Mr. Holcomb, he took my son and they went up the street to the vet. And that's when I met him up there while Tyke was getting, under care. And they told me that he would have to have surgery. So him and my son and my husband, they went up to the animal hospital in Annapolis where Mr. Holcomb, he paid for the surgeons and everything. And he appeared to be apologetic. And at that time, I was just taking everything in consideration. He appeared to be apologetic. And then, he came, he would call my husband to check on the dog and everything like that. Tiger, it was touch and go because all of his intestines came out. They had to repack it and put it back in. He had 2 drainage. He was in there from that Friday. He came home that Monday. And that's pretty much all that I have to, I had to add. I just wanted to make sure that they know that he took my son up to the hospital. When I went to like I said, up to the hospital, he was, really apologetic and everything. And I had heard the stories behind him. So, I was just feeling him out. And that's all I really have to add to that. Ever since then, we don't walk Tyke in that direction, which I think is sad because he used to look forward to his long walk. So we kind of keep it just around in our yard or up and down our Kingfisher Road. We don't go on the back road. My son hasn't walked him back there ever since that incident.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am, and stuff. Mrs. Lucia, can you hear me real well?
Yes, I can.
Okay, and then Ron, can you hear me real well also? Mr. Marks? Ronald, are you there? Okay, Mrs. Lucia, I know your incident, obviously was not reported. However, we did stumble upon that in our investigation and stuff. And I do feel that if you need to add anything to this case, this will be the time.
Yes, when my dog was being attacked, I mean, I was screaming and yelling, and I could see him and his father up the street. The dog actually left out of the yard and came running, which was, a few hundred feet, and just, I'm screaming and yelling for them to come get your dog, come get your dog. And it took them a while to come to me to help. And he was, like, please, 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 don't turn us in, don't turn us in. And he said, I promise I'll keep the dog on a leash and all this. I was like, fine, because there is a leash law in Anne Arundel County. As but he didn't do what he said he was going to do. I feel he's irresponsible. The dog should have always been muzzled, always been on a leash. I don't care if he's running from his dad's house to his house, and then that is what was happening. He just saw us coming up the street and darted. There are small children with other small dogs that walk, and at any time, with this dog being out, if you could go after the dog and miss the dog, and then the child's involved. I feel like he's irresponsible as a dog owner, and he's proven that. I also feel that his, dad, for letting the dog out and running around too, is also irresponsible. So I don't, if I walk up that way, I've been able to walk up that way when I go walking because I know the dog's not there. But when he did have the dog, I'd have to walk another direction. And, and that's sad because that takes up the whole loop around North Deal, that you can't go anywhere near this corner because you got to worry about this dog. And I warned other people when I was walking that had small children and dogs, to look out. So it's a sad situation, and I just feel like he's irresponsible. That's all I have to say.
No, I understand, ma'am. I understand, because there was an order in place, just, to reiterate to our board members. So when Mrs. Lucia's incident happened, and obviously it was before Mr. Marks' incident occurred, an order was in place. This dangerous order was in place. So that animal, basically Bishop should have been on a 6-foot leash and a muzzle. When Mrs. Condra's incident took place, this is when Mr. Holcomb Jr. advised that the dog was deceased, or then went to Virginia. I had to involve another jurisdiction. And obviously the dog was still here and placed in hiding. So I wanted to reiterate with that. And if Mr. Marks, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so with your incident being the last incident, I didn't know if you wanted to add anything in reference to your incident with Demon.
Yeah, I would like to reiterate, especially with Mr. Pruitt, because it's just kind of a major concern for the neighborhood. And mostly people slough it off as hearsay, but when it occurs with more than one witness, maybe it should be taken a little bit more heartily in the court system. I too have been threatened multiple times by Mr. Holcomb. They attempted a witness intimidation. He has stalked me. He has threatened me. He has threatened damage to my home, my property, and my animal. And he also filed a false police report claiming that my dog attacked him after the court case was already established on the Bishop's dog order. I called the police when Bishop attacked my dog, mainly because this occurred at midnight. Mr. Holcomb was sound asleep, and his dog is out roaming free. We have over 50 dogs in our subdivision, and I know at least two people. One is 83 years old, who walks her dog early in the morning between 5 and 6 a.m. There's also a school teacher who walks her husky usually at 5 in the morning. And if Mr. Holcomb's asleep and his dog is out roaming the neighborhood, I shudder to think what would have happened to either one of those two dogs or the 83-year-old lady. Mr. Holcomb is obviously an irresponsible dog owner. He never had his dog properly socialized. When you have an animal that large that can be that vicious, it needs to be under control, and it never was. I also fail to understand how he already had a dangerous dog order, and his dog is out roaming, untethered, unmuzzled, and he hasn't been arrested. This is just surprising to me that we even have to sit here for this court case. It's unfortunate. I love dogs tremendously. I hate to see any of them put down. I would plead that Bishop go to a rightful owner, if at all possible, to see if that dog could be turned around. But Mr. Holcomb should also never have a dog again. And his father also has problems with dealing with dogs. I'm shocked to hear the repeated lies, the false statements he's made to law enforcement, and fabricating a death of a dog to include photos. It's just shameful. I hope we can do something about this, and it is terrible. I agree with both Latoya and Jane that we can't even walk peacefully around in our own neighborhood because of fear. That should never happen in the neighborhood. We have a nice community, we have a nice town, and one person makes this kind of a problem. I implore the court to actually take some action and make it so that Mr. Holcomb does not get the dog back, and hopefully never another vicious dog again either. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Alrighty, Mr. Marks, thank you very much for your testimony. What I wanted to let the board members know, just so you have kind of like a geological area of this. I don't know if you're familiar with the community. So Rockhole Drive is going to dead end. There's probably maybe a consistent of maybe 4 homes that are in this dead end. Mr. Holcomb Jr. and Mr. Holcomb Sr. live across the street from each other. Mr. Holcomb Sr. is on the water side. So his property is literally facing the water, whereas his dad would be behind him technically from waterfront. So he's not on the water side. So their properties are real close to the entrance of that dead end when this incident took place and stuff. And there is a neighbor as you're going in on the right-hand side before you reach Mr. Holcomb Jr.'s residence. So the orders that were in place originally, the dangerous orders, in reference to Mr. Holcomb Jr.'s dog Bishop and Mr. Holcomb Sr.'s dog Pup-Pup, was at Senior's residence. The compliance was at his dad's residence because he could comply with all the conditions that were asked there. He couldn't comply for him being on the waterfront. He couldn't comply with the other conditions over there. So I just wanted to reiterate that very quickly, just to let you know that there was an order in place prior to the last incident that took place with Mr. Ronald Marks, and finding out Mrs. Lucia's incident, which created another incident placed on Bishop. Yes,
Okay,
well, you figure all the way back from October to Mr. Ronald Marks's incident, and of course Mrs. Lucia, which was April 1st. So there was quite a bit here from, you figure, from October 2017 to January 2020.
Okay, thank you, Officer Thomas.
Thank you.
Do we have any more comments from the complainants and their witnesses before we go to the defendant? Okay.
Hello?
Can we hear from the defendant, please?
Hello?
Hello?
Hello? This is Tom Pruitt here. I did want to say one more thing, if I could, please.
Yes, please, go ahead.
I did go to a hearing, by animal control, and they did put in the dangerous order on the dog. Me and my son went, both Holcombs were there, and that was November 6th, where they issued that restraining, where he had to have a pen in the back, and he had when he was outside, he had to wear a muzzle, and he had to be on a leash. He couldn't leave the house without a leash and a muzzle. And then they had if he was going to be out in the yard, they had to put him in that kennel. that they had built outside. And I was surprised months back when I saw the kennel removed and hear about these other things occurring, these other, attacks. And I'm figuring, I thought the dogs were gone because I hadn't seen them. But I just thought I would mention that as of November 6th, they did have the vicious dog thing in effect. They called it a dangerous dog.
Yes, thank you.
A hearing. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think we're ready to hear from the defendant. Mr. Palmer, you're on mute.
How's that?
Now we can hear you. Thank you.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Mr. Holcomb, you sent me an email a few minutes ago, so let's make sure one thing while we're here. Mr. Holcomb, do you still wish to appeal the vicious order that was entered as to Bishop in January of this year?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, look, I was just trying to defend my dog the entire time all this incident was happening. A couple of you neighbors are a little off on your stories. If you were in my shoes, you would have tried to defend your dog as well. Okay, I'm not trying to make any enemies around there, but you guys, want to do that, that's fine too, okay? He's just a big, playful dog. I see your guys' viewpoint. I understand why we're here, but, I was just trying to protect my dog, that's all. Yes, he screwed up a couple times, yes. You guys want to hang me out to dry, if you guys want to put some kind of, little picture of me out there saying I'm the guy with the dangerous dog, that's fine too. I'm just here to apologize. I'm sorry that each incident happened. Okay. This has been long and drawn out ever since January. I don't mean no harm to none of y'all, but when somebody comes and they're coming at you from a different direction, that's human nature to get defensive. Okay. Bottom line, Bishop is not as bad as you guys make him out to be. He really isn't. And if this is what you guys want to do to put a dog down and to make a big case of it, well, okay, that's fine. I think I've accepted the fact that he has to be put down. Okay, and for you guys to make the statement that I can't own another dog or something, you're talking out of your ass, to be honest with you. Okay, the incidents happen. I pay for them all. And I tried to do the best I can with apologies. Now, if you guys would like me to write individual apologies to each one of you, including Officer Thomas, for me being disrespectful to you, I have no problem with that. Okay? But I'm not going to sit here and go regurgitate all this shit that's coming out of everybody's mouth right now. I'm trying to do the right thing and I'm trying to apologize. If you'd like me to apologize, I have no problem. I will write each one of you a letter. Mark, you go ahead and speak up. I'm tired of hearing all these made-up stories. So go ahead.
Mr. Holcomb, we have your apology. You're sorry for what you've done. You've told us that. Here's the question: do you still wish to appeal the vicious order?
Well, you're gonna put Bishop down. Yes, I would like to appeal, but it's not going to go anywhere. You guys have already made your case, and it's a good case. I got it. If I'm standing on the other side of the fence here, all you guys want to do is go around and interpret how you want to interpret, meaning all the witnesses there. And, and Officer Thomas, you were doing your job. I got it. I apologize. I'm trying to protect my dog. So, I mean, at the end of this conversation, you guys is going to put him down anyway. So, all I'm doing is trying. I mean, if you would give that dog one more chance, at least to maybe go to Kimbertail. I got 2 phone calls in trying to get a hold of somebody up there so that way I can ship him back up there. And yes, that is a true statement, Officer Thomas. I don't want to see this dog go down. In fact, I even heard Mr. Mark say he doesn't want to see the dog go down. Can we at least have a normal conversation on maybe we can ship the dog back there so he can be obviously removed from my attachment so that way he can live? I don't want to see anybody get put down. That's wrong. So yeah, go ahead. Well, you're going to slam me stop. I don't want to see the dog get put down. But if that's what you guys want, you know, that's what all you neighbors, every time you see me, so that way I can look at you and look at you in the eyes and say, hey, you know, I'm glad you like to put dogs down. That's great. I got 2 more dogs at the house too. You might want to come and visit them. Might want to come and, you know, maybe tell me I got to put those 2 little dogs down. Now, if you guys are going to go around saying all you want to do is kill dogs, then that's up to you guys. That's not up to me. I don't want to see them get put down.
Mr. Holcomb, I don't think anybody is saying that.
I heard it. If I heard it once, I heard it twice.
And we understand that you feel passionately about your dog and you love it. When do you reckon you will have a response from the breeder in Pennsylvania as to
If you can give me by the if everybody here can give me at least by the end of the week to try to make this happen, I will call whomever you tell me to call back. I will do whatever you tell me to do, but give me that chance to try to get him transported there, please. But if you guys want to go ahead and kill a dog, that's up to you guys. That's fine. You guys are really good at this. I understand why.
Mr. Holcomb, thank you very much. I don't think we need to hear from you further unless you have something that you'd like to add that's of some assistance here. Commissioners, we've heard Mr. Holcomb request a 5-day stay of execution, as it were, to determine whether the breeder is willing and able to take back the dog. It would take him out of Anne Arundel County and, in fact, out of the state, where the breeder obviously is a kennel. They know how to handle dogs. They know what to do with them. That's what our request is. Thank you.
Anything else, Attorney Palmer?
I don't have anything else.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So I just wanted to basically add, understanding, and I do appreciate, thank you, Robert, for apologizing. Unfortunately, with a vicious order, the order would have to be lowered to a dangerous order for it to be transferred out of state. Vicious order dogs cannot be transferred. I just wanted to add that, sir.
All right. Do we have any other comment before we go to deliberations?
Mr. Holcomb, do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
Now, you guys already made your decision. You guys already have your, prerequisite in your head. So there's nothing I can do except for, like I said, apologize and, but that's not good enough for some of you folks, and that's fine.
Okay, I believe we're going to be closed for deliberations. Philip, can you mute everybody but the commissioner so we can have open discussion?
Yes, looks like we're good on that front. Robin, if you can take care of the call-in since you have access to that, and the commissioners should be able to unmute themselves at will. I don't believe we have that locked down. Yep, that looks good. So you guys should be okay.
Okay, Gregory, please unmute yourself. There you go. Thank you. Okay, Ed, do you have comment?
Well, I do. I'd like to, Philip, can you hear me? I guess not.
Yes, sir.
Phil?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Did you get any answers while we were doing this to those 2 questions I had?
Yes, sir. While the recommendations can be made to the chief, whether or not they are upheld moving forward is something that he will have to cover with the legal department of the county.
Okay. Yeah, my take on this is, the apologies and the things that went on in the neighborhood, they seem to be kind of hollow as far as I'm concerned. This whole thing has left a string of traumatized animals and people. And I see no reason to to disregard the order. I think it should be upheld. Public safety, that's what we're here for. The dog running at large, even after the potentially dangerous and the dangerous orders, and it should have been leashed and muzzled. You know, that's the main thing, and the deceit and the you know, all this stuff about shooting the dog and sending a picture, and that's just I don't know where that came from. That's really bad. So bottom line is I see no reason to upset the order, and I believe it should be upheld. And I also believe it should be amended. I agree with some of the witnesses that this individual, Mr. Holcomb, should not be allowed to have any more large dog in the area. He's proven what he does with them. And I don't think sending this dog to Pennsylvania or wherever he wants to do, I don't think he can be trusted. I think he will reobtain the dog, and we'll be right back here again a month or a couple months from now. So that's my take on it. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Ed. Stephanie?
Yeah, I do remember this case. We have heard from them before. It's unfortunate that we're here again. And I think all of us, our goals are to protect public safety, and you know, we're thinking of the animal as well. If we had been following the order, this would have never happened. The orders were in place to be leashed and muzzled, and that's the responsibility. I know it falls to us to make this decision, and that's not easy for us. But I just want everyone and attendees to hear that our goal is to help these animals live. We want them to live out their lives under protections for everyone else. That can't be done. That's clear that that's not this time. And we've tried several times with Mr. Holcomb to allow this animal to live out its days in protection. So, you know, it's not something that we take lightly, and it's not something that we want for Bishop. And I agree with Ed that I don't think that we can trust this owner to uphold and you know, I want the animal to have a chance, but it just seems like downgrading to a dangerous order to try to give this dog a chance to live under very, very strict regulation. I just don't think that's going to work. And it's unfortunate for the animal because that's not what any of us want. But it is our duty to keep public safety. So that's my thoughts on it. I think we've tried to give this dog a chance in the Holcomb household. I don't think that we can trust that the dog, it's not adoptable. You know, you can't, once the dog has a lot of bite history, it's very hard to get these dogs adopted. So shipping off back to the breeder, this and that, I don't think is a viable solution. I don't think that should be something that we should even be talking about. But anyway, so as much as I wish it wasn't this way, I feel like for the sake of public safety, we really do need to uphold this vicious order. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Stephanie. Lieutenant?
Yes, I'm in agreement with all the factors that have gone into this case and all the work that's been done. We find ourselves back here again with this particular dog and this particular owner. I think to take the chance on downgrading to dangerous as opposed to vicious and then shipping the dog elsewhere, we're just putting somebody else in harm's way with this animal. I don't know if anything can be done to ensure that the owner doesn't have a large breed again, but I think that's where we are. I think for this case in particular, it should maintain a vicious order in place.
Thank you. Gregory?
Hi. You guys hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So this is my first time I'm stepping in for Tom, but based on everything that's been said and everyone has shared, I'm in agreement to keep this into a vicious order. It's just, again, with everything that has been said, it's we've given it a lot of chances, it seems, and it could have been fixed at any time before, but this problem has kept going on. And I think that we have to uphold the vicious order.
Okay, thank you. I would obviously totally agree. You know, this dog has a history. Number two, you know, when the dangerous order was already in place, and I understand from one of the witnesses that the kennel in the backyard, which was required, had disappeared. That's disturbing. This is a dog that just did not escape out of the fence. If the dog was out running around while the owner was sleeping, there's something very wrong with that. So at this point, I make a motion to uphold the order as is. We have a
Can we amend it that Mr. Holcomb not be allowed to have a large breed?
I don't believe we have that power. I mean, we'll have to ask Curran.
Okay, can we
Curran,
read this?
Curran's on the line. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, can we ask Curran then?
I just did. Curran, can you join us and tell us whether we can amend the order to allow for no additional large dogs in that household?
There is no statutory requirement based on the code for what the recommendation is to the chief of police. Whether or not the chief is able to uphold that recommendation would be a consideration that animal control and the chief of police would have to make.
Okay, so we can amend the order to require that he not have a large dog in the household?
You could recommend amending the order to say that, yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I modify my recommendation to uphold the order with a stipulation that no large dogs be allowed in that household. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. Order is passed. Thank you all. Philip, can you get the next case going?
Yes, sir. So I do have that recorded. I have Mr. Marks raising his hand. Not sure why. I'll reach out to him momentarily. Let me just get everyone square here. So let the commissioners going to.
Disregard my raising hand. I just bumped the symbol and the icon lit up.
No worries, sir. Thank you for the clarification. All right, so let me see. Robin, if you could audit the call-in panelists back down to attendees, we'll get everything clear on the board here and then call the next case. I'll just get started on that. So we have the next case, Animal Care and Control versus Eric Banks Jr. for the appeal of the dangerous order for Leo. All parties who have an interest in this case who wish to testify, if you would utilize the raise hand feature so that way I can patch you in. All right, let's see, we have Chantel, bringing her up.
Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Ms. Chantel, can you hear us?
Yes.
If you would, for the record, please state your full name and address.
Chantal Lee White, 8100 Holly Road, Clearwater Beach, Maryland, 21226.
Thank you, and please hang out for just a moment. We'll get you sworn in momentarily. Let's see, I don't see anyone else with their hand up. If you would, if you wish to testify, please utilize the raise hand feature. Let's see, we've got some chat
So
here.
I have another one that had their hand raised. I did promote them. It says their guest 074632.
Yes, it looks like I can see him there. It's an officer. Sir, if you would please state your full name and address for the record.
My full name is Eric Glenn Banks Jr.
Perfect. All right, let me get you in here.
Spell that, Eric. Thanks. Like a bank.
I've got him running. He's labeled. Oh, no, labeled. Put that back on. There we go. And I'm not seeing anyone else with their hands up to testify. Officer Thomas, are you expecting any other witnesses?
There should only be two.
Got Miss White and not seeing anyone else here. Just wanted to make sure before we start rolling forward.
I guess she didn't. This morning, Phil. That was the one that you transferred me to call.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, that was Mrs. Bailey.
And I'm not seeing her here. Let me double check the number she called in on. That was 9254, which we don't have here. Let me reach out real quick. Just one moment.
Okay.
Officer Thomas, you're on mute.
No, thank you.
Okay, I looked like you were talking.
No, I'm not. I'm talking to Robin.
Okay.
Looks like she was having some trouble joining. I'm getting her the information she needs, and she'll be patched in momentarily. All right, she should be in here within moments. Still not seeing her. There she is, promoting her to panelist. I'll get her. All right, can you hear us, Ms. Bailey?
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. And for the record, if you would please state your full name and address.
Kiana Bailey, address is 7827 Hidden Creek Way, Baltimore, Maryland, 21226.
All right, and thank you all, you three. If you would please do declare and affirm under the penalties of perjury, the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
Ms. White? Mr.
Yes.
Banks? I didn't hear anything. Okay.
Yes.
Just need to hear you affirm it. And Mr. Banks, if you would unmute and affirm. Thank you. Perfect. We are set.
Okay, can the complainant testify?
Good afternoon again, Mr. Chairman and his board members. So this is Leo. Leo is a husky, black and white male, unaltered. He was involved in 2 incidences where a warning letter was issued in the prior. I'm going to take you back first with the first incident. Mrs. Bailey's here, which is the parent to that victim. So on May 13, 2019, Animal Care and Control received a bite exposure report that a 13-year-old Deshaun James Jones and 15-year-old Marquise Brown were bitten by Leo, a husky mix owned by Eric Banks and Latrice Banks of 1448 Stony Point Way. May I also add that Deshaun is Eric's son, just so you don't get confused. He had, let's see. The 13-year-old was just Deshaun. He basically returned home or he thought he missed a school bus, and Leo lays by the door. He had Marquise Brown with him. Victim opened the dog ran out into the street. Deshaun was bitten when he fell trying to hold the collar of Leo. He was bit both hands and his face. Marquise was bitten when the dog ran out, bit him on his hand. Both were no sutures. However, a warning letter was issued, advised several recommendations to prevent further incidences. Officer Herford spoke to the owner about these, requiring a neuter of Leo, crate, and behavioral training. Leo was he was 3 at the time of the incident. On May 5th, 2020, Animal Care and Control received a bite exposure report that on May 4th, 2020, 14-year-old Brad White was bitten on his left hand, thumb, and wrist by Leo, a husky mix type owned by Mr. Eric Banks Jr. of 1448 Stony Point Way in Baltimore, 21226. During the investigation, Mr. Banks' son, 14-year-old Deshaun, was walking Leo on his chain leash. They were in the court on bikes. Brad advised his mother, Chantel White, that he and his friends Peanut and Carmine were outside of Bryce's house in the court, waiting for him to come outside. They saw Deshaun walking Leo, and he came over to the court. They rode our bikes towards that area, but kept a distance because Leo was temperamental. Leo was doing his business on a bush, that was close to him, and he felt finished. He approached him while he was on his bike. He was not barking or being aggressive like he usually is. Deshaun had slackened the lead, and Leo approached him out both paws on his chest, stomach area. He stood there and wouldn't move. When Leo went to move off, he bit down on his hand. He started yelling in pain and panic, and Bryce came out, told him to get paper towels. Bryce's stepfather, Mr. Mike, came over and put rags on his hand and drove him home. He got 8 sutures in his hand. On May 5th, 2020, Eric's son, Deshaun, sent his statement in, and he advised that he was walking his dog, Leo, on a leash when he saw a group of his friends. He stopped nearby to talk with them. They were all on bikes in the middle of the road, and he was in the grass with his dog, Leo. Leo was smelling a bush, not paying attention to any of them. He advised that Leo was interacted with them before, and they know not to touch him because he does not like to be crowded and may bite them if they try to pet him. He advised that he decided to get closer while still on bikes, and they got Leo's attention. So Deshaun advised that he had his chain wrapped around his hand. When he told him to back up because he'll bite, Brad was still on his bike and wanted to try to pet Leo. So he put his hand out for Leo to smell. He was acting normally, smelling him, and then Leo jumped up on him, still smelling him. So he pulled Leo down but he quickly bit Brad's hand before he could pull him away. He bit him through his glove and noticed Brad was bleeding. He then took Leo home and told his parents about what happened. On May 6, 2020, Mr. Banks brought his dog Leo in for quarantine and under public safety investigation. After review of the case files and prior history, it was determined to prevent future incidences and means to protect the public, a dangerous order was issued. Mr. Banks did file an appeal for he didn't want his dog neutered. Leo is still in our care and custody today. And Mrs. Bailey, can you hear me real well?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I understand that your son was Marquise Brown. His happened back on May 13, 2019 with Eric's son, Deshaun. Did you want to add anything to that?
I don't believe so. Marquise, did you want to say something? No. No, I don't think so.
Okay. Okay. And Mrs. White, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. And as far as with your son's incident, now your son did receive sutures. Did you wanted to add anything to this case?
Yes, I do. Brad, from Brad's statement, they were sitting in the court. Deshaun walked over to them with the dog. They know the dog's temperamental, so they don't approach the dog. They don't go near the dog. They stay far enough away, but still talk to their friend. But because when he went to the bush and was going to the restroom, when he got done, there was some slack. Brad said the dog came over and started sniffing. He said, I was kind of scared, so I stayed still, kept my hands where they were, and the dog jumped up on his chest. Well, kind of like chest, stomach area, because they were sitting on a bike. They weren't riding the bikes. And you got to understand that Deshaun walked over to them to where the court was. They didn't go over and approach them. They were all sitting waiting for Bryce to come out of the house. They weren't riding around in the street at that time. Even one of the parents that drove Brad home, Mike, said the kids were not running around or riding around to provoke the dog. So I just don't, I feel like I'm hearing that it's my son's fault, and I don't want that to be there because it's really not. My son wasn't at your home. He wasn't in your yard. He wasn't by your fence. He wasn't doing anything like that. So anybody walking down the street with a minor holding a dog that everybody knows is aggressive, if it got off a leash, if it ran out and pulled the leash out of their son's hand, if a minor or a little baby a toddler escaped from a parent for a quick second and the dog was walking down the street, if there's an aggressive dog and everybody knows it's aggressive, why not have a muzzle? That's what I'm saying. I just think it could have been prevented. I just don't want it to seem like it's Brad's fault. He approached the dog. He didn't. They know the dog's aggressive. They probably once a week see Deshaun over there, and they stay their distance and talk to him all the time. So he brings the dog over to I guess there's a basketball court, to the basketball court to talk to them. He comes up and walks when they're riding their bikes. They keep their distance. They did it this time as well. It just was slacking the leash enough for the dog to get closer to one of them this time. That's all I have to say.
Pretty ma'am, I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. That's the county's case, Larry.
Okay, can we hear from the defendant? You're on mute. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, yes, good morning, everyone. First and foremost, I do want to state that it is unfortunate that Brad was bitten, and I do send my condolences that he was bitten. But at the Marquise? But I do want to state that Leo is not aggressive. I have two neighbors to left and right of me. They both have small pets. Leo interacts with both their pets. Both Leo does not bark. Now, when you say Brad was out sitting on a bike, we all know that if you're sitting on a bike, both of your hands are on a bike, and you're sitting like this. If for any reason the dog was to bite through the bit somewhere on a body part, not biting on a hand, that means the hand had to be extended. And then also, Deshaun walks Leo every day. He walks Leo every day, no incidents. I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old is about to be 3. I have nieces and nephews that come on my house. My dog will literally sit at the front of my door when I bring groceries in and out. He never runs out. He will sit there. People can walk up and down the street. Many neighbors can attest to it. They walk by and say, wow, your dog's very obedient. because he'll sit at the door with the door open, does not run out. I have a very large field in the back of my house. When I'm exercising, working out, Leo, Leo, he's unleashed and he's out there running in the field with me. Now, to prevent any measures, Leo also does have a body harness where we attach it to him. So it's not just a leash, it's a full body harness. Now, for the incident when Brad was bitten, I don't know the circumstance. I wasn't home, but when I came, I was told and informed about it. Leo does sometimes sit at the front door, and then when he hears the son approaching, he'll run up, look in the window, and then he'll run back to the door. That incident, like I said, I can't speak on it, but I do know, like I said, he was bitten. And from my understanding, it wasn't that the son, to correct you, Officer Thomas, the son wasn't bitten trying to hold the leash. He was bitten when he picked up Leo because he was trying to break Leo away from it. Which is also, it was stated that, like I said, Leo's not aggressive. And you never recommended, you never required Leo from the first warning letter. You recommended that he gets neutered. And I'll ask, remember, you recommended that he wear a muzzle. But again, for that one isolated incident, Leo has never acted out to be aggressive, which we also think it was needed to be. And as I stated before, all the other measures that you stated in the dangerous order, that you wanted me to have a secondary gate measure, I said I was fine. I would have all that. I even sent you pictures, added the bolt to the back gate, added the retracting spring so that the gate closes as soon as you walk out of it. But to have my dog neutered for something that he did not cause, and that he was walking, and like you said, all the other kids know, like he don't just run up and try to attack anyone. Leo minds his business. He don't just run up and lunge at people. Leo will walk, and I can literally walk outside. And I can have neighbors attest to it and write a letter stating that Leo doesn't lunge at anyone. He doesn't bark, as stated. Leo never barks. So that's another false statement. For someone to say Leo barks, every neighbor can attest to it. Leo doesn't bark at all. And again, so for him to be labeled as a dangerous animal because of this incident, I think it's not right for him to be labeled, because he wasn't doing anything. He wasn't being a nuisance to the neighbors, nuisance to other pets, nuisance to anyone. It's just that, unfortunately, like he was told, the son told him, do not pet him. My son has no reason to lie to me. He said, do not pet the dog. Brad extended his hand, and unfortunately, he did get bit. And I even told you, Officer Thomas, it's unfortunate, but if you're told that the iron's hot, you don't touch the iron because the iron's hot, and you're told that the iron's hot. I'm sorry to use that strong analogy, but at the same time, I'm saying again that Leo does not attack and viciously go after anyone.
Anything else to add?
No, sir, that's all.
Officer Thomas?
The only thing that I basically just wanted to add and everything is what we're concerned about is we have 3 bites. And understanding, Mr. Banks has basically stated that the fact that the son was, bitten because he picked his dog up. That's redirection aggression. Our concern is for the public. He is known to show that he will bite. And that is our concern. And the reason for the neutering, again, statistically wise, is that dogs that are intact have more propensity to be aggressive. And this is for female and male. So this agency is staying firm with their order, just to let you know that. Thank you.
Okay. Unless there's
Can I add anything?
Certainly.
Officer Banks, when I came to your house and was talking to you, I asked, you said that the son had asked the kids not to come closer because Leo can be aggressive. So for you to say that he's not aggressive here, I understand it's a pet. I know everybody, a pet is like a family member, and I get it. But that day I talked to you and I asked if it had happened before, and you said it has. It just scared me a little that our kids are down there riding bikes and playing in the park, and and they're kids, and to have a minor walking a dog that might be aggressive, to have a prior thing happen to where they asked for it to be muzzled if out, and those precautions weren't taken, and then here it is, my son's bit. Brad, like you say, you have no reason for your son to lie to you. I have no reason to feel like my son is lying to me. And when you are sitting on a bike, most kids got their hands down by their pants. They're talking with their hands. They're sitting still on a bike, so they're not using their hands to hold up the bike. So, and that's my point, that the hands weren't sitting on the handlebars. And when the dog approached Brad, that's when Brad said he kept his hand still. He didn't lean his hand out, but he kept his hand still down because he was afraid to move, because they are told that Leo's aggressive and to not make a sudden move or to get closer. So when the dog put his paws up on Brad's chest, that's when they were really scared. And I don't know if the dog got down on its own or if the son had pulled Leo back, which you said, I guess he did. And Brad even said that. I don't know what made Leo get down, but when he did, that's when he grabbed my hand. So I'm not trying to say anybody's lying or anything, but to have it even your own words to me that the kids know that the dog's temperamental and aggressive and to not approach him. So then to say now that he's not aggressive, I'm just confused.
Can I add something also? This is Marquise's mom.
Yes.
Marquise wanted to clarify, I guess, the incident that took place. He was not walking with the young man. The bus didn't come. They all were actually going back to their homes. I believe his name is Deshaun. I'm sorry if I said his name incorrectly, but they weren't even on the same side of the street. Marquise was walking with his girlfriend. They were walking back to their home. The young man opened up the door. The dog, Leo, ran out of the household across the street to my son. So to me, that definitely shows some aggressive behavior. And on top of that, now my son, we had to get rid of our dog because he has this phobia or fear with dogs. So to say again that Leo's not aggressive when clearly my son and the young lady that was walking, they were literally walking back to their homes. They weren't interacting with the dog. The dog was inside of the house. So for them to say, and I know we try to reach out to Mr. Banks, I have never heard anything or any response or this is my first time even hearing anything about, his end of how the dog isn't aggressive. So I don't really know, we all know we live on a different street. And when we see the young man with the dog, we know not even to go near that dog. And we don't have a neighborhood where people can't really, you have to walk on the other side of the street. Everybody's pretty friendly. Their dogs are pretty friendly. So I just wanted to add that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Officer Banks, any final comments before we close deliberations?
Yeah, sure. Also to add, like I said, I'm not sure Brad has been. Normally the kids who are in the front of my house, they always come by. We all play basketball together. Even when they do ride bikes, a couple of the kids had issue with their bikes, and I literally fixed their bikes out in front of my house. And also to add that Leo sat at the front door, never once lunged at any one of those kids. Never once, there was no biting incident whatsoever. My door was literally open. The son ran in and out in and out of the house, grabbing tools, adjusting and fixed. Two of their bikes who they were having issues with. Also, Ms. Marquis' mom, I believe, where the miscommunication was, but I was never informed that you got to try to get in contact with me because again, I was at home, and there was no note or anything left for us to get in contact with you. If there was, the communication didn't come to me, and I would have gladly reached back out to you. But I'll say again, Leo the son walks the dog every day. 6 o'clock, from 6 o'clock about around 3 o'clock and then 8 o'clock. He walks that dog every day. No issues whatsoever. Unfortunately, again, there were these two issues. But at the same time, he walks he walks the dog every day. The same leash, we have the body harness, no problems. Again, I have a field in the back of my house. If there was any reason to believe that Leo was aggressive, would act in an aggressive manner. There's two kids who play lacrosse, lacrosse in the back of the field. Leo is unleashed. Doesn't have the issue with it. Leo runs, doesn't even bother him, doesn't even interact with him. So, I mean, it's unfortunate. I say again that these two incidents happened, and definitely it's unfortunate, but it's not saying that, oh, do not touch or do not interact with Leo because he's vicious. Because again, I have a 6-year-old. I have a 2-year-old who's about to be 3, never been bitten by Leo. I have nieces and nephews, not from the ages 9 and younger. They come over. Leo roams about freely. I have family members who visit my home, friends who visit my home. Leo roams about freely. He doesn't have to be gated. He doesn't have to be closed off or isolated, and there's no biting. So like I can't answer why these two incidents happened, but again, for Leo to be labeled as dangerous, he's not. And as I stated to Officer Thomas, I will completely comply with all the orders that she recommended. Having the safety, having the gate, having the was it the secondary barrier for when the doors open, Leo does not leave the home. Adding the muzzle, adding the lock on the back gate along with the latch. But for him to be neutered because I do wish to breed my dog, I don't agree with that. That's all I have.
Officer Thomas, any final comments?
The only thing that I wanted to add, I mean, as far as research wise and stuff, and I mean, this is just, I'm not, I'm not putting this, I'm only putting this out here statistic purposes, okay, as far as breed, all right? And I normally don't talk about breed, but these dogs are basically in the top 5 nationwide, all 52 states for human fatality. So I just wanted to reiterate again, like I said, the agency understanding the circumstances, understanding that Mr. Banks wants to comply with a lot of things, and breeding the dog. What our concern is that again, statistically, dogs that are intact, have a propensity to be aggressive, and he can pass these genes right on down to his puppies. And that is our concern. It's been our concern, for as long as I've been here, and I've been doing this 20 years and seen every walks of life as bites, whether they are extremely bad to the very superficial. And we don't, this is our concern too. I don't want this get to the point where we're looking at something that was superficial in the beginning, and now we have a severe bite. The next one could be even severe, because we've seen dogs that will escalate with aggression, and next thing you know, we have multiple injuries. So we don't want to see that either. That's the only thing I wanted to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments before we close for deliberations?
I have a question. Could Officer Thomas, could you tell me when was the first incident?
So the first incident happened back in May 2019. That was May 13, 2019. That was dealing with Mr. Banks's son and Marquise Brown.
Okay, and there were some recommendations provided at that time, correct?
Correct. Those recommendations basically were enroll the pet in private modification classes, neutering him, securing him to a 6-foot leash, non-retractable while wearing a harness, coupler, muzzle, and walked by a responsible person 18 years in age or older when he is off the real property, and then also securing him inside the residence using secondary barriers to prevent accidental escape.
And could you remind me of those injuries?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Could you tell me about the injuries again on that one?
So as far as the injuries are concerned, basically on the report itself, it just says multiple punctures. And now it says for Marquise, and Miss Bailey, if you're still present and can hear, you could probably verify this because I'm not the officer that worked on this case. But it says here that he was wearing a soft cast.
Yes, he wore a soft cast for what was like a couple weeks, well, like 2 weeks. And then it was in his dominant hand, his right hand. Yeah.
Okay. So. And he had multiple puncture wounds.
Yeah, on his fingers, on his hand, going up his arm.
Okay. Okay. And now, as far as Deshaun, I'm sure Eric, you could probably reiterate better than I can because the report only basically says both hands and his face area. It doesn't go into detail whether or not they were punctures. It does say here though that it was minor.
Yeah, so he did have a bite, I believe it was on his hand. He said from when he went to grab at Leo, then he had the scratches on his face. I guess when Leo was due to the incident, I don't know, like I guess when he was still flustered from the incident. But yeah, he did which hand? Yeah, it was his right hand.
His right hand. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else before we close for deliberations?
Just a clarification with Mr. Banks, what you are appealing is just the permission to neuter?
Yes.
Okay.
Like I said, everything else I'm willing to comply with. And also, I do want to add that also Leo has had behavioral training that my wife has taken him to with the it's the training, I believe it's off of Telegraph Pass.
Okay, thank you.
Pause activity. Is it? It's like pet staycation or something, but he has had the behavioral training as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, if there's no more comment, we're going to close for deliberations. Okay, Ed, comments?
Well, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is the muzzle, which was suggested in the warning letter from the May 13th incident. It was dated June 9th. So if that had been in place, there wouldn't have been any further incidents. Bottom line is, I'm not really sure about the neutering issue. I don't think that may make a difference. I think the muzzle is the most important thing when this dog, I forgot, Leo, when he's being walked, the leash and the muzzle, I think would have prevented this particular incident. So whether it's a dangerous or potentially dangerous, I think that muzzle requirement should remain in place. And that's my take on it. It's either dangerous or potentially dangerous. You know, I don't know if we can enforce the sterilization of the animal, and if the owner doesn't to, I'm not a vet. I don't see if that would have prevented the incident or any future incidents. I do understand what Officer Thomas said, though. But the muzzle is my concern, and that should be in place. I don't think it should be any lower than a potentially dangerous order. And that's it.
Thank you, Ed. Elizabeth?
So obviously the first opportunity, the first incident was an opportunity to prevent the second incident. So I think that, when we have one incident, then that gives us information of the intent and the capabilities of the dog. So we had puncture wounds on the first incident. I think that's a pretty significant piece of information in this case. And so the second incident happened, and we're talking about children handling the dog and being involved in the incident. And I just want to point out that there is no child here to blame for this incident whatsoever. Just wanted to make that note that there's no child at fault here. That it's the responsibility of the adults to prevent these things from happening. So the order with, obviously I agree with the provisions in the dangerous order, and especially of course the muzzle, but I don't see a reason to, if the only provision is neutering, I just don't see a reason not to keep that in there. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Yes. Well, one I'm looking to see is the dog dangerous or potentially dangerous? I see both of them in the May incident, and I wasn't able to verify. And is there a difference? As well, again, the recommendations, is there any standard that they not be recommendations but mandates? Because if they're just recommendations, does he have to abide by it? And that's what I see in the May 13th notice. Again, like after the May 13th incident, I'm sorry. Well, I believe it was, yes, this is in the June 19th warning letter. So has he received anything that mandates what he should be doing as opposed to just recommendations? And
If we uphold the dangerous order or even reduce it to a potentially dangerous, the mandates are mandates. They are not recommendations.
Okay.
Only a warning letter has recommendations.
Okay. So that was the warning letter. And again, I'm also in agreement. I was thinking the more important item would be the muzzling. Because if the dog is neutered, is there still a possibility the dog can attack if we're not mandating muzzling as opposed to the neutering? And is there a standard for a number of attacks or bites that typically we move it up from potentially dangerous to vicious? This dog obviously had two attacks that have to be addressed. But I'm thinking for me, the muzzling was the more important. And again, like I say, if I could get clarification on what's potentially dangerous and the mandates for dangerous, or are they separate?
This is currently a dangerous order.
Okay.
We're not talking about upgrading it. It is currently a dangerous order.
Okay.
It does require the muzzling, the short leash, adult walking the dog, kenneling, secondary barrier, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. So after the first bite and not having a muzzle, not having an 18-year-old or older walking the dog because the kid is obviously 13, was there any action taken, or was it just after the second bite that we knew that these things weren't being abided by?
That I don't know. Officer Thomas would have to answer that.
Okay. All right. I am more fixed with the muzzling as opposed to the neutering. Again, not knowing how effective that would be, I have no idea. That's the only reason I'm not bent on saying yay, nay, or either way with the neutering.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's it for me.
All right. Thank you. Stephanie? Stephanie, you're muted.
Great, thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, so unfortunately, I do see that there is this potential. We've had 2 cases. They've been puncture wounds. It seems like there's definitely the potential for this dog to be dangerous. And I don't think that Mr. Banks has any question about upholding the order. So I think that the order should hold in its entirety. Whether we downgrade that from dangerous to potentially dangerous, the mandates within them, is the exact same requirements. So that's that's something I'd be open to. Again, it's just verbiage on potentially dangerous versus dangerous. It would be the same precautions in place and the same mandates. So that is where I feel like we need to uphold the order completely. As for neutering, I think that's the only question that he had about mandating that Leo be neutered. He is a 4-year-old dog. He's got a long life ahead of him. While neutering a male dog will not completely fix this problem. Clearly, everyone understands that these precautions of muzzles and an adult walking this dog on a leash and secondary barrier so he doesn't slip out the front door, those are very, very important. Certain breeds are more territorial. Neutering them can help, but that's something that it's not a perfect fix. So it's not an either or for me. I feel like a mixed breed dog, it's not a reason wanting to breed a mixed breed. It's not a purebred, even if it were. Wanting to breed a dog that has behavior issues is not a good idea. That's my medical opinion. In the medical records, the dog has been aggressive at the veterinary hospital, needs to be muzzled, and they recommend sedation for future appointments. Granted, dogs can be scared at the vet office, so I don't always take that as the end all, because sometimes they're different at the vet hospital than they are at home. But these incidences are happening, at home. Not within the home, as Mr. Banks mentioned, with family, but there's some sort of protection or territory defense on the outside of the house where this is happening. So Again, I feel like the only question here that Mr. Banks is asking for is about neutering the dog or not. And I don't see any reason why the dog should not be neutered. There are other medical benefits. So wanting to breed the dog is not a reason to keep the dog intact. It can help with behaviors. They still will produce hormones and testosterone, but not at such a high level that aids in this this drive for protection. They'll still be the same dog and still, again, use sex hormones, but not maybe to a level that it could curb some behavior and help him calm down. Again, not a perfect fix. So I don't see a medical reason why you shouldn't neuter a 4-year-old dog that has a long life ahead of him. In fact, there's medical evidence that you can prevent problems, not behavioral, but other issues medically of a reason to neuter him while he's young now, and he's young and healthy. That would be a reason. Preventing testicular cancer, prostate cancer, lots of things that can be prevented. So for other medical recommendations, your vet probably has already mentioned that it's a good idea to get him neutered. So if that's the only question, I don't see there being a reason why he should not be neutered. I recommend that he should be neutered, and in addition, the dangerous order upheld in its entirety.
Thank you, Stephanie. Gregory?
So I think everything's been pretty much everything I wanted to share has already been said. Again, like the muzzle definitely, and it can, I believe, either a potential or dangerous order could apply to this situation. Really, as long as really the public is safe. The neutering, it can go either way for me, but the other stuff is more important, and I think the mandates will keep that in check. So I'm in agreement with everyone else.
All right. I am also in agreement with the other commissioners. Do we have a motion? Nobody wants to make a motion?
I move to uphold the dangerous order in its entirety.
I second it. All in favor, raise your hand. Lieutenant, are you abstaining or?
No, I would, what I would do is remove the neutering. Again, I just don't know, because I don't think the recommendation is to have the dog neutered for health benefits. I mean, you know, it would be specifically for the dangerous part. And again, I just don't know if that would be the factor with this order. If there's a dangerous order, I am for that. And if in the dangerous order, the neutering has to be there, then I would be a part of it.
Okay.
Am I clear? if I am for keeping it as a dangerous order.
Yes.
My reservation was.
Our vote was to maintain the dangerous order intact, which will include neutering the dog.
Right, and so therefore that's why I would vote nay, because I wouldn't be for the neutering portion of the dangerous order.
So the motion passes 5-1.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have that recorded, and we'll go ahead and get the panelists cleaned up there. Oh, no, already cleaned up. Perfect. Thank you. All right, so let's see. Bring myself up here. And we are recorded. If it's all right with you, Larry, I'll call the next case.
Yes, please call the next case. Thank you.
All right, so next up we have Animal Care and Control versus Gene Inderfirth for the appeal of the potentially dangerous order for Zeus. All parties who have an interest in this case who wish to testify, if you please utilize the raise hand feature, and we'll add you in as a panelist and get you sworn in one at a time. Well, sworn in together, but added in. All right, let's see. We have Priscilla Kania, promoting her to a panelist. And asking her to unmute.
Mr. Banks, you weren't able to talk again. I saw your hand up. If there was something you wanted to say, I did want to give you that opportunity. Okay, maybe he's gone.
Looks like in the chat he was mentioning his son's height and weight and their possession of a muzzle. In any case, let's see, Miss Kania, I'm trying to get you to unmute there. I'm still muted. Try one more time. Oh, there we go. Can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Perfection. And then if you would please state your full name and address for the record.
Priscilla Cania, 635 Andrew Hill Road in Arnold, Maryland.
Thank you kindly. And if you would just hang out for one moment, we'll get you all sworn in. Let's see. Not seeing anyone else with their hand up, but let me just double check here.
Philip, do we have a defendant?
First. Miss Ender,
yeah.
are you here somewhere? If you're here somewhere, please put up your hand.
Yeah, her number does not match any of our call-ins. And I believe we also have one other witness, Anne Brundage. Let me check that number. She is present. She is the number ending in 6254. If one of my wonderful co-hosts would pop her up.
What's her name?
That is Anne, A-N-N-E, Brundage, B-R-U-N-D-I-G-E. So that way she can be labeled appropriately, which I do appreciate since I can't handle the number of diamonds for some reason. While she's getting patched in, I'm going to reach out to Miss Inderfirth to make sure she's not having technical difficulties.
I'm going to put your video up.
This is Anne Brundage. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Anne.
Yes, Anne, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Stand by for us, please. Actually, Anne, if you want to go ahead and state your name and address for the commission, that would be great.
Yes, my name is Anne Brundage. Hello.
Go ahead.
My name is Anne Brundage. I live at 724 Rusack Court in Arnold, Maryland. The community of St. Andrews.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll swear you in just a moment.
Yes, she did. She did.
I placed 2 calls to Miss Inderfirth, and they both rung out. Officer Thomas, do you by any chance have any other contact numbers for her? I've got the 0639, but no answer on either of my calls.
What number do you have? He has a 0639. That's the one you have there.
Yeah, they both rang out.
Looking to see if we have any others.
Her daughter's home right now. I could see her.
Philip, any idea if she was on earlier?
I have not seen her name pop up, nor have I noticed the phone number for the contact that we have. It's not in here at the moment.
Thank you.
Double check my calls here. Yeah, no voicemails or emails from Miss Jean. Any luck, Officer Thomas?
Phil. So the phone number, well, the phone number that only good phone number that I had for her, she would always answer me when, I mean, I actually have her email address. If you want to try, I can bring it up to you.
Her email address?
Yeah.
I have it here. I can send an email.
Is that the J Cinderfirth at Gmail?
Yep. In the meantime, how should we proceed?
I recommend we take a 3-minute break, bathroom break, and then come back. And if she has not joined us at the end of that, we're going to have to make a motion to dismiss.
All right. So,
Okay.
Robin, you have the postponement slide, and we'll go on a quick break.
Okay, we're taking a 3-minute break.
8900.
We'll start again at 11:10.
Just going to read those back to you. No, I read it. I just want to almost start cows. I'm gonna start laundry. Cows. Yeah.
All right, let's get started.
Sounds good to me.
Philip, can you give us an update?
Let's see. She has not reached out via phone or by email.
Okay.
So it looks like our defendant to appear for all intents and purposes.
Okay, so I move to uphold the order.
Do we normally hear the case even without a defendant, or?
No, we do not. Without a party there to defend themselves or testify, there's no point.
Okay, I think we have.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
My concern is that she's had this order on her for several months. And since she's had the order, her dog has subsequently attacked Ann's dog. So the order doesn't seem to be doing anything to prevent the dog from attacking.
Well, that may be true, but we are upholding the order rather than dismissing.
Well, I know. Yeah.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Priscilla, so basically the order wasn't issued until after Ann's incident.
Oh, it wasn't? I didn't know.
No,
that.
ma'am,
Okay.
the correct. I didn't want you to get confused. Yeah, I know the potentially dangerous order with the mandated conditions was after Ann's incident.
Okay. All right. Then I feel better.
Alrighty, ma'am.
Okay,
Officer Thomas,
I made a motion to uphold the order. Do we have a second?
I second.
All in favor, raise your hand.
Ann's got a question.
Okay. It passes unanimously.
Larry?
Yes.
I think Mrs. Brundage had a question, if I'm not mistaken.
yes, I did.
Okay. What's your
Go ahead.
question, ma'am?
All I wanted to know is the order is currently going to stand. Does that mean the dog has to be walked with a harness and muzzle and that sort of thing?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and actually, this is going to be, discussed afterwards also, because the whole reasoning for her to appeal this order is because she wanted her daughter to be able to walk this dog. Okay, her daughter is under the age of 18.
Right.
Okay, so what we did was that we put a clause and stuff in the order that, until her appeal hearing, was heard, that her daughter can be able to walk the dog. However, the dog still had to have all the requirements of number 4, which is basically the harness, the collar, the clip, the muzzle, which is the basket muzzle, for her to be able to walk the dog safely.
Okay.
Okay.
How about being outside?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
How about being able to put barriers up so the dog is not able to get outside?
Correct. Those barriers are in place.
Okay.
If she takes them down, she'll be in violation and stuff. That's a $250 fine.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Ann.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Philip, can you call the next case?
Yes, and just to make sure, Officer Thomas, you wanted me to call them together since the Burtons were an interrelated case, same incident, right?
Correct. Absolutely.
All right. So the next case, we have Animal Care and Control versus Cynthia Burton in the case of the appeal of the dangerous order for Trippi the dog, and also the appeal of the potentially dangerous order for Bella the dog. We also have Animal Care and Control versus Jessica Burton for the appeal of the potentially dangerous order for Freya the dog.
Okay, thank you. Can you take the attendees into panelists mode?
Yes, I'm going to start bringing them in. All parties who have an interest in this case who wish to testify, if you would please utilize the raise hand feature so that way I can add in. Put it here. All right, perfect. We have Jessica Burton, bringing her up. Looks like Mr. Prue was brought up somehow. Let me take him back down. We've heard from him. All right, asking Ms. Burton to unmute. Ms. Burton, can you hear us? Oh, muted again. Muted, there we go.
Now
Jessica, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Perfect, we can. And if for the record, if you'd please state your full name and address.
Sure. Jessica Burton, 1305 Burton River Road, Lothian, Maryland, 20711.
Thank you kindly. And we've got Ms. Huffman asking her to unmute.
Hello,
Hi there, thank you. And if you would please also state your name and address for the record.
Trisha Huffman on behalf of Patuxent Mobile. Sorry, MHC LLC, 5380 Sands Road, Lothian, Maryland, 20711.
Thank you kindly. And we have Cindy Burton asking her to unmute. Ms. Cynthia, can you hear us?
Yes.
Perfect, and we can hear you. If you would please state your full name and address for the record.
Cynthia Burton at 1307 Burton River Road, Lothian, Maryland.
Perfect. And let me just double check my list of individuals here. Looks like we also need one Bonnie Chapdella and Juliana Holt. Let me see our attendees here. We have two call-ins. Yes, we have Ms. Chapdella, the number ending in 1714. If one of my co-hosts could go ahead and add Ms. Bonnie Chapdella into panelists section. And let's see. Officer Thomas, I don't have a number for Juliana Holt. We do have one other call-in, but I'm not sure. Let's see, there's a number ending in 8686. If we could just bring them up, we'll see if that's witnessed while we're at it. Once we can hear them.
It's the person from phone number ending in 8686. Can you try and say something and let us know if you're Mrs. Holt, please?
I'm not hearing anything. Any luck in bringing Miss Chapdella up?
Hello?
Hi there, perfect. If you would please state your full name and address for the record.
Bonnie Chapdelaine. My address is 62 Patuxent Mobile Estates, Lothian, Maryland, 20711.
Perfect, and thank you kindly. If you would hang out for just one moment.
Thank you.
And the caller with 8686, can you hear anything? Can you say anything? All right, such is life. I will go ahead and swear everyone in. Everyone who just stated their name and address, if you would please, do you declare and affirm under the penalties of perjury, the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
I do. I do.
Perfect. Thanks to the microphone symbol, I can tell who affirms. So we are golden and may proceed.
Can the complainant please start?
Hello, Mr. Chairman. It's Officer Thomas with Animal Care and Control. Before I start, Phil, are you still there? Can you hear me? So,
Yes, I can. It takes a moment for me to unmute. Sorry.
That's okay. I was just making sure. So we have a surveillance footage of this incident, and I'm hoping that we could play this for you.
Yes. Now you're referring to the actual incident, correct? Not the just walking around ones.
Correct. This is the actual footage coming from Patuxent Mobile Estates in reference to the actual incident. It actually caught the incident. Before we show the video, I'm still going to go ahead and go through my initial report with you guys so you can get a gist of what's going on. I do have all parties here. Patricia Huffman also basically advised me later, and you'll see that in here when I talk about this in reference to the dogs being in violation of their order already. So I'm going to go ahead and start, and then hopefully we can get this video played for you guys so you can actually watch it. So basically, we're dealing with the Burtons. It's Burton Sr. and Burton Jr., Jessica Burton and her husband, which is Burton Jr. They live on the property also in their own home. There's 2 homes set onto this property. It sits way back off the road. However, they do back up to Patuxent Mobile Estates of where the incident took place. So on March 26, 2020, Animal Care and Control received a call from Police Communications that police was responding to 62 Patuxent Mobile Estates for a severe animal attack and needed assistance from Animal Care and Control. Animal Care and Control Officer Dos Santos responded and spoke with the victim, Mrs. Bonnie Chavdella, from 62 Patuxent Mobile Estates, who stated she was walking her dog Willow, a spayed 6-year-old Australian cattle dog, merle in color, in the grass behind the house of 65 Patuxent Mobile Estates, when 2 dogs, a white with brown Pipple type breed of dog and a chocolate-looking Bernese Mountain Dog type, came out of the woods and attacked her dog. Mrs. Chavdella stated that her husband brought Willow to Dunkirk Animal Hospital at 11470 Southern Maryland Boulevard in Dunkirk, where her dog was badly injured. According to Mrs. Chavdella, the veterinarian took x-rays since there is a high probability that the dog needed surgeries. The officers observed security cameras at the rear of 65 Patuxent Mobile, which possibly recorded the attack. Janie Russo, which is the manager of the mobile estates, will try and pull the video. We do have the video. That's the video I'm speaking of. Spoke with the owner, Cindy Burton, who owns Trippi, a white, black, brown Pipple type breed of dog, and Bella, a black with brown undertones Newfoundland. The owner admitted that the dogs left the property earlier this morning, but she was unaware that they were involved in a fight. Ms. Burton was informed that due to the dogs being at large and severely attacking another animal, they would need to be impounded at the shelter. Ms. Burton was advised of the quarantine procedures as well as the investigation that would be conducted in regards to the animal attack. Ms. Burton signed 2 animal data sheets stating she was the owner of both dogs and she wants them back. They were both impounded, Bella and Trippi. 2 impound letters were also signed, 1 for each dog. On March 27, 2020, I received a call from Mrs. Patricia Huffman with Patuxent Mobile Estates advising that they viewed their cameras and viewed the footage of the dog attack. She advised that the husky was also involved as well. I asked her to send the footage over to us for review. After reviewing the footage, I contacted the owner, Cindy Burton, and she advised that the husky is Freya, who belongs to her son. I contacted the son and spoke to Jessica Burton Jr., Stephen Burton Jr.'s wife, the owner of Freya. I advised of the footage capturing all 3 dogs involved in the animal attack. I explained that Freya would need to come into our facility under public safety investigation also. They did comply. On March 27, 2020, Mr. and Mrs. Chavdella submitted photos and statements of their dog. They advised that Willow, their dog, was seen at Dunkirk Animal Hospital where she sustained injuries. She was sutured and drains were placed. Bonnie Chavdella advised in her statement that she was walking her dog Willow on a leash in the park where they live. She explained that they were on their way home when 2 of the dogs came rushing over loose, 1 Pitbull type looking dog, a Newfoundland type dog, and immediately started attacking Willow. The husky, the type dog, came running over and joined in the attack to Willow. She advised that she was screaming. Willow slipped her collar, and she used the leash and the collar to beat the dogs off, and the neighbors heard her yelling, and Julie, one of the neighbors, came to help her get home with Willow. She then called 911. Julie Holt advised she didn't witness the incident, however, saw the attacking dogs leaving the area after the The surveillance footage was reviewed again, and all 3 dogs were involved. However, Trippi, Mrs. Burton Sr.'s dog, was the aggressor in the entire incident. Bella and Freya were involved and joined in. After a review, the agency issued a dangerous order on Trippi and potentially dangerous orders on Bella and Freya for being involved in it at large. April 6, 2020, I, Officer Thomas, responded to the Burton's residents since they both live on the same property, different homes. Both were in compliance with the clause in the orders on number 3, that all 3 dogs will be allowed out of the home unless they were on a 6-foot leash, non-retractable, and a muzzle and under control of an adult at all times. They had 90 days from the signing of the order to come in compliance with the fence or the kennel requirement. Dogs were released. Both parties, Ms. Burton Sr. and Burton Jr., filed an appeal. And I do have a note down here, but I'm going to let Patricia to go into it since they do have, she can vouch for the footage of the cameras in reference to that we actually had the dogs on Patuxent Park, not Freya this time, but basically Trippi and Bella were out again in violation of the order that was issued and on park property. There was no incidences, however, they were at large, which is a violation of the order. Patricia, did you wanted to talk about that real quickly?
I can. And do you want me to comment about the previous?
Well,
on the property.
That's fine and stuff. I mean, well, before we go into that, Mrs. Chapdello, are you there, Bonnie?
Yes.
Did you want to add anything in reference to Willa's incident?
It shouldn't have happened. It's taken her a long time to recover, and now she has to re-socialize with other dogs.
Okay.
And this is not the first time they've been over here, and I'm sure it will not be the last.
Okay. Trisha, do you want to add? Because we are going to show the footage.
So just briefly, we have had complaints over the past few years. I've been here for 7 years. We've had complaints over time for the dogs running freely throughout the community. And I just tell residents, please call and report it. That it only goes so far when I'm calling constantly, with the same thing. So I do encourage residents to complain themselves because I'm not the one typically seeing them. It's early morning before I come in. I do know that on January 14th, the most recent call I had personally made to animal control about the dogs being on our property, after several calls from residents, that they were, animal control was sending a letter explaining to Mr. Burton Sr., I believe. We weren't sure exactly who was the owner of which animals, but explaining, that they need to be on their property and so on. Attack happened to Willow on March 26th, and then on June 2nd, I got in a conversation with another resident. They told me that they'd seen the dogs on the property, so I went back and reviewed our footage. It was about 7 o'clock in the morning, between 7 and 7:15. We did see them on camera, just the 2, not the husky. They were just sniffing around. It was the same vicinity of where the attack took place, which is actually right next to our playground where kids play. Frequently, all hours of the day. Luckily, nobody was over there at the time, but it was early morning again, around 7:15. And I did file an affidavit of complaint with animal control for both violating the orders and for being at large during that time. Officer Thomas, I think you're talking and I cannot hear you.
Sorry about that. So thanks for giving that insight. So we do have, like I said, we do have the surveillance footage that we had to review. You're basically going to actually see how all 3 dogs are involved, and however Trippi was given a dangerous order, you will see how she was relentless and she did not give up at all under any circumstances through the entirety. Phil, are you there?
I am.
Hopefully we can do this where they can actually video or see this footage.
I think we should be able to. You want me to go ahead and pop that up?
Yep.
All right, everyone bear with me for a moment. My laptop runs on hopes and dreams. Let me get this popped up here. Let's see. Right through the application. Share the submitted videos. Hypothetically, you guys see a folder with a bunch of videos? Anyone?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So this is the actual incident in question. Oh, course, it's like right behind.
We can see the video if you can just make it big. Yeah, there you go.
There you Let's give that a moment. That should function.
And just bear with us, folks. The video is a little long, but if you are looking at basically the grassy area, if you're looking over to your left, you're going to see a white split fence. You guys see that? You guys are all muted. I'm sorry. So on the left-hand side.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so on the left-hand side, you're going to see the white split rail. This is the direction that the dogs are going to be coming. You're going to actually start seeing them coming into view on the other side of that split rail fence. And you're going to see how there they are now. You can see them coming over, and they're going to come through the split rail, and then you'll see Mrs. Chapdella walking up at the lower left-hand bottom of the screen. She's going to be coming up. That's Trippi. That was Trippi. This is Mrs. Chapdella walking with Willow. On leash, you're going to see to the left, you're going to see her change her demeanor because the dogs are going to start rushing over. Here we go. Bella is the larger. Trippi is the smaller. Trippi attacks first. Bella's going to keep coming in. Now we're going to the ground. Bella's going to retreat. Trippi is still engaged. Bella's going to come back again. Here comes Freya to the left-hand side of the screen. She's going to come through. And she's going to start engaging. Now we have all three dogs that are involved. Okay. Thank you, Phil.
Yes.
Okay. That's the county's case.
Okay, thank you.
Can I make a comment real quick? Do you mind?
Go ahead.
I just wanted to point out, obviously, this is very graphic and upsetting, but I also wanted to point out that the area immediately to the left of that fence is the playground. So they're coming in that area every time they come into the community.
Okay, thank you. I have a question for Bonnie. Can you
Yes.
describe the extent of your injuries?
Sir, I didn't have any injuries. Just my dog did.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Larry, I just wanted to add something. So I do believe that you guys had access to the shared drive in reference to, okay. So the pictures are in there in reference to the injuries. I do believe that the medical report is in there also, Stephanie, if you wanted to review that. So, she had multiple areas of bite wounds. And her areas of her bite wounds were extensive enough where they had to suture and put her in drains. I do know that when I spoke to Bonnie's husband back when we were investigating this and stuff, Willow's a pretty strong dog, but she's going to have a long recovery. Veterinarian, I believe, even wrote that in the medical.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments from the complainants or witnesses before we go to the defendant?
One more. I know Bonnie's upset, so I'm just chiming in on her behalf. Willow's one hind leg, it literally ripped the skin from her muscle and peeled away in different areas. It was significant.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to the defendants. Jessica, Cindy?
Do you have a preference who goes first? Does it matter?
No, I do not.
Okay, I'll go ahead first if that's okay, Cindy. First of all, Bonnie, once I was finally given the video on that, because, we were just told, hey, your dogs did this thing, and then they come and they take them away and you have no idea. You're like, well, what happened? Why aren't you telling me what happened with my dog? If there's a video, I want to see it. If my dogs are dangerous, don't you think I need to know that? So once I saw it, my heart was very broken for you. I could see you were really fighting for, to protect your quote unquote fur daughter. Also, I apologize for the background noise. It's 10-month-old, work from home, difficult. Anyway, so I am deeply, deeply sorry that this even happened to you. Everybody is completely correct. It never should have happened. Willow never should have had to go through any of that. And I'm deeply, deeply sorry that happened. And I do hope that she recovers quicker, and that she makes a full recovery, and that you can feel safe to go out again with her. I can assure you, Freya will not be a part of that anymore. To start off with what we've done here, Freya, definitely, I don't want her anywhere but on my property. She is a husky, so normally typical huskies like to run and roam and explore, and they're typically known to be very high energy and everything, and they dig and et cetera, et cetera. Freya is kind of the antithesis of a husky. She is a husky, but she doesn't exhibit a lot of the normal traits because of the way that we trained her. As I've submitted my own evidence with her interactions with dogs and other people, she is a very well-behaved dog. From what I took away from the video, Freya's involvement is she thought that they were playing and she jumped in on top of Trippi. From what I can see, I see her engaging with Trippi because that's what she does to Trippi. We have a relative that does have an Australian cattle dog, and when that dog comes over here, super high energy and everything, she and Freya play, and they are like best buds when she's over here. So she has interacted with that exact type of dog before. But we have also constructed a 6-foot privacy fence with locks on it. That would have happened regardless of what orders have been placed on us, just for her safety, and so that we know where she is at all times. She also has a shock collar and a GPS on her, but by the time the GPS went off saying where she was, it was obviously too late. She was already on her way back. And the shock collar, she has great recall. So we actually haven't had to use the shock function of her shock collar in years. She has fantastic recall to her name and the audible tone that it outputs. She recalls to the front step. But regardless, those won't matter because she won't be outside of the fenced-in area anymore. Philip just sent me a message. I would like for you to play my videos. I don't know if you also share the note from the daycare that she frequently attends, where she is very well socialized. I don't know how that could be shared, or if the commissioners just read that themselves. I completely agree that she should never have been over there. But Freya is nothing but a sweet dog, and she does not go actively searching to harm people or children, especially my 10-month-old that's in the house. Dogs should never be around children unsupervised, but I trust her under my supervision around him within reason. So that's it for me for the moment.
Okay, Jessica,
Yes, sir.
obviously the dog is home, which means you're in full compliance with the potentially dangerous order.
Yes, sir.
What is it you're appealing?
I don't believe that she should be considered a potentially dangerous dog at all.
Okay.
So I would like for it to be removed entirely. However, that does not mean that I will not continue to make sure that she is maintained properly on my property.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Cindy, do you want to go ahead?
Yes. So I agree with Jess. I feel really bad for Bonnie's dog. And I didn't even know my dogs were going over there because there's a fence that goes all the way down. But the animals from the trailer park coming over here, mainly the cats, for the episode that happened on June 2nd was because there was a cat in the yard and I had the dogs out playing with Trippi's rope. There's a rope that I have hanging in a tree and she bites on the rope and swings. And Bella saw the cat and took off after it. And then Trippi followed and They came back. That's why nothing, that's why you see them coming up part where the playground is, comes down from the river. So when my dogs go off my property, they go down to the river and back up. And that's how they got over there. And if that incident would not have happened if it wasn't for my dogs chasing the cat. And I do apologize because I don't want that to happen. Because I've been playing with the dogs outside and keeping them under control, playing with them and what have you. So, but I mean, I don't want my dogs over there either. I have plenty of land over here for them to play on, and they don't need to be going anywhere else but staying on my property. So I need to put a fence up across where their fence ends. I'll have to put it stretching it across and hopefully keep the cats off the property so that when they run back over to their property, my dogs aren't following them. But my dogs have never bitten anybody, any person. I mean, even Bonnie, my dogs never even tried to bite her. They're not vicious. They don't bite anybody. They're, Trippy's 7, Bella's 8. They've been living here since they were young, and they have never, ever, ever, ever bitten anybody. And there's people that come over here all the time. There's dogs that come over in my yard all the time, and they usually only play with the dogs. They've never bitten any dog. Matter of fact, I had a dog that was over from the trailer park come over into my property, and it actually bit my husband, and we called animal control, and they told me they couldn't do anything. They told my husband he couldn't find out if the dog had rabies to go to the hospital and get rabies shot. So, I don't understand why. I do understand that Bonnie is upset about her dog. I'd be terribly upset about my dogs too, but when my husband got bit, you guys did nothing. So I'm a little bit upset, I guess, that.
Okay, Cindy, can you hang on a second? I have a couple of questions. Officer Thomas, can you unmute? It says that the 2 dogs are home. We have obviously a dangerous order and a potentially dangerous on the other. Cindy just indicated that she intends to put up a fence. How is it the dog was released to home if there's no fence?
So basically what we did is we did a clause in the order if you're looking at it. So basically they had 90 days from the signature of the order to put up a fence or a kennel, and then she filed an appeal. In the meantime, if the dogs were outside, and that means going out the front door, back door, and stuff, the dog has to be leashed, muzzled, and under control of an adult until the appeal hearing.
Okay, thank you. Cindy, obviously the dogs are home, so you're in compliance. What is it you're requesting?
I would just like the dangerous and potentially dangerous to come off. I don't want my dogs anywhere but on my property, and I do not want them over in Patuxent. And as I said, I've been keeping them here. They only got away from me the one time because of the cat that was over here, and I've had plenty of the cats are coming over here quite often now, a lot more than they used to. But I don't know how to stop that. Other than maybe having animal control come out with some cages or something to catch them. But I do not want my dogs anywhere but on my property, and I've been staying with them 24/7. So I don't want them anywhere but on my property.
Okay, Cindy, let's be specific. You have a dangerous order on 1 dog. What do you want that changed to?
Not dangerous. Because she's not dangerous. She would never bite anybody. She would never, ever hurt anybody.
Okay, and the potentially dangerous order, what do you want that changed to?
Dropped, because Bella is a Newfoundland. She would never hurt anybody.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Anybody else want to testify?
Sir?
Yes?
Hello?
Yes.
This is Bonnie, and if you can look at the pictures of the injuries from my dog, the dog was mutilated. How can she say these dogs are not dangerous? This has nothing to do with cats. And these dogs are loose. This is not the first time they've been loose. They're going to keep coming back.
No, ma'am.
This has
No,
nothing
ma'am.
to do with cats.
They're not going to keep coming back. The only reason they went on that side of the property was because they.
Well, ma'am, you should look at the pictures of my dog. I'm lucky my dog is still
sorry.
living.
I am so sorry. I am so.
I don't think so.
No, I am very, very.
I really don't think so.
I am very sorry for you and your dog.
This is emotional stress. This is stress of paying for all this bills for my dog because of someone else's not taking care of their animals. I'm afraid to even take my dog out. I have to carry a weapon now. I don't want to injure another dog, but I have to protect myself and my dog.
And I understand, and you should, absolutely. Absolutely.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Okay, it's Officer Thomas. I'm going to chime in here. Basically, I'm just going to give some information and some insight here as far as, the orders basically stated that, and besides Jessica, because you built the fence, I know it, you've been proactive through this whole entire thing. Thank you very much, ma'am. One thing is that I did wanted to reiterate is that 90 days is still in effect. So if the fence was built or if the kennel was built, the dogs wouldn't have been able to get off the property. I actually have surveillance footage that Mrs. Hoffman has provided, knowing that she's filed an affidavit, and Phil's willing to play these videos if you want to see it to show that the dogs are back over at Patuxent Mobile Home Park again, coming out through the same area. So they're in violation of their order as it stands right then and there, because if the dogs are going to be outside, they basically have to be on a leash, in a muzzle, and under control of a responsible person 18 years of age or older. So if you let them out the door and think they're going to stay on the property, they're not. No, of course, they're going to follow and they're going to go back, over to Patuxent. Mrs. Burton's property basically backs right up to Patuxent Mobile States. There's a fence there. However, if the dogs go down to the river, they can get right over there very easily. So it's totally up to you. I mean, we have the footage if you guys want to see it, we'll play it.
Now, I know my dog went over there because I was outside with them when they took off after the cat.
Okay, so when they took off after the cat, Cindy, basically they weren't supposed to be loose.
I know, but I was playing with them. So, and I
still
have
be
a
on
property here.
Okay, they still need to be on leashes, and they still, until your appeal hearing, we gave you 90 days, to build that kennel and that fence. That is to keeping the dogs contained.
Right, but I was playing with them. And so, I mean, I can take my dogs right over to Justice's house and put them in the fence if I need them to be out. They're not out. Trippy's 7, and she doesn't like to be anywhere unless she's with me. And Bella is 8, and she's getting old. Big dogs don't live that long. They usually sleep most of the day. So I was outside playing with them. That was the only reason they weren't on the leashes, because I was playing with them.
No, and I understand that. And I understand that, ma'am. The only thing that I'm going to basically advise right now is because the fact that they have the propensity to get off the property, and I understand what you just stated, the fact that, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to take them over and put them in my son's yard because it's got a fenced yard. Okay. The requirement's going to be that they have to basically be leashed and muzzled going from your door to that fenced yard. Can I basically say that you're going to be guaranteed that they're not going to get off the property again? You got to realize that we're dealing with 2 separate residents. Understand you're still on the same property. You're still going to be where the order is going to state, unless something changes today in this hearing, but you're still going to have to provide something on your side of the property to be able to keep them contained on the property. This agency is not going to look at the fact that you're going to allow you to just take your dogs over and put them in your son's yard.
Right.
Because if something could happen from that point, the dogs get off the property, you're going to be in violation, not your son.
Right. I understand.
Okay.
Any other testimony? Cindy, Jessica?
No, sir. Just if Philip could, or Phil, sorry, however you'd like to be addressed, if you could show the things that I had submitted. I don't know when it's appropriate to do that.
Not a problem. I can pull those up now. Let me grab that here. Give me just 1 second.
Sure. So basically, while he's setting that up, I've provided Ring doorbell videos of Freya interacting with several different Amazon drivers before this incident occurred. I just picked 4 at random because I ordered way too much stuff online, so I could fill an entire library with these kinds of videos, but I didn't. I just chose 4. And then there are also videos of her from the daycare she attends, as well as a letter.
Philip, are you going to go to the next picture?
I am trying desperately.
Am I on mute? Yep. Jessica, when was this taken?
The dates, it's probably blocked by the bar there, but there's a date. Yeah, there you go, at the bottom of each of one of these. These are all from like early March, just a little before the incident that took place. Like I said, I ordered too much from Amazon, so there were a myriad of them, and I just chose 4.
Okay. Okay.
So again, reiterating, these are people that she does not know, that she's never seen before, that are walking onto her property and into her personal space.
And this is Freya, correct?
This is Freya, yes.
Okay. And that video was before or after the incident?
All 4 of those videos are before.
Okay.
She used to just hang outside in the front yard in a little dirt spot in the ground where it was cool by the front door. And so she would just instantly greet everybody that came up.
And you do want me to play these others as well, correct?
Yes, please. These are from Dog Thrive in Annapolis, where she's been a client since 2017, and she plays in an open play environment with tons of dogs that she also doesn't know. That one is just showing her initiating play with a dog that was incessantly barking for some reason. And another thing that's reiterated in the letter that the general manager wrote on her behavior is that this is an open play environment where they're highly scrutinized on their behavior before they will ever allow them in. But yeah, you can read that for yourself. I don't need to parrot unless you want me to.
No, that's fine. Officer Thomas?
Yes, sir.
I see, we have 1 dangerous order and 2 PDOs. Is that because we believe the one dog, Trippi, to be 100% at fault when it came to the damage to the other dog?
Not 100%, no.
Okay, then
Not
why did...
But the fact that, Trippi was engaged the whole time, okay?
Okay.
And then we basically saw, that Bella, she went in there as well, and we're looking at pack behavior here. That's the only reason why we decided to do the PDOs with the 2 dogs, because we felt that, you know, Trippi, yes, was the aggressor. The other 2 were chiming in, obviously, because we have a situation that's happening, you know, where all dogs are engaged. You know, we got to protect the public, obviously, but we got to make sure that these dogs don't ever be put in a situation again like that.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I mean, you could see from the videos of watching and stuff how Trippi was completely engaged the whole time.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Philip.
Okay.
Sorry
Do we
about
have
that.
any other? Do we have any additional testimony?
Not for me. No.
Okay. All right. We have 3 separate orders here, so I think we need to discuss them individually and then vote individually. So Ed, do you want to start? Oh, wait, we're going to close for deliberations unless there is any more testimony. Okay, we are closed. Ed, should we start with the dangerous order?
Yeah. I do know that all dogs act differently in different settings. Unfortunately, the video of the attack and the pictures of Willow, I believe, was the victim dog.
Yes.
They're horrendous. That was a vicious attack as far as I was concerned. And from the video, it appeared that the dog that's named Trippi probably initiated that. So I think that dangerous order, it's not vicious, it's dangerous. I think it fits when you weigh everything in that particular scenario. I think that fits, and I don't think that there's any reason to disturb that. That was pretty gruesome, and the results to the poor dog Willow, the victim, was pretty gruesome. So I don't see any reason to disturb that particular one. That's
Okay.
it.
All right, thank you. Elizabeth, on the dangerous order?
On the dangerous order with Trippi, it was a very meaningful and purposeful, intentional act. I mean, there's a lot going on in that moment. It's very, it's a highly aroused situation, and it looked like her arousal was escalated with the pulling and the opposite reflex action, when that's kind of typical of a dog fight, when you are there and a dog comes aggressively at you and your reaction is to try to save your dog, pull your dog away. It definitely is an action that encourages an intentional dog to do more and continue, and that's what we can see happening. So I am inclined to uphold that particular order for dangerous on Trippi.
Okay, Lieutenant?
Yes, I'm in agreement that order should stand for dangerous for Trippi based on the actions.
Gregory? Gregory, you're muted.
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't clicking. Sorry. Again, I'm also in agreement that it should remain and unchanged.
Stephanie?
Yes, and I just want to clarify, because I think that that Cindy was questioning about the dog being dangerous, and so even though there's 2 different types of bites where they can bite humans, and maybe to her point, the dog isn't dangerous, and even in that incident didn't bite a human, but there was significant animal to animal bite, and so that is dangerous. There was significant damage done. So for that reason, I agree that the dangerous order should be upheld completely for Trippi. And again, you know, this doesn't, I mean, it's animal to animal, but it's still significant. And I think that her point was that she would never bite a human, but that's not what we're here for. It's about the potential and the dangerous to bite, and that happened, and it was significant. So I just wanted to clarify that, but I agree in upholding the order.
Thank you, Stephanie. Yes, I would agree with my fellow commissioners. That was a frightening video. That poor Bonnie was out in the open, had nowhere to hide. I would have, I've rescued dogs for 34 years, and that would have scared the daylights out of me, having 3 dogs jumping on me and doing what they're doing to Willow. So do we have a motion on the dangerous order?
Make a motion that the dangerous order stay in place.
Okay, I second it. All in favor, raise your hand. It passes unanimously. Next order is going to be the PDO on Bella. Ed?
Well, it's potential. And that's the word that's the key in here. It's potentially dangerous. And as long as these 3 dogs are traveling together, playing together, if Trippi wants to initiate something, the others potentially could follow. So I don't see any reason to disturb that either. It is potentially, and we saw in the video that it's potential. Now, to the degree of which dog did which, it's kind of hard to tell, other than I think Trippi kind of led the pack, and no pun intended, in that particular issue. The potential is there, so I don't see any reason to change that either.
Okay. Thank you. Elizabeth?
Well, I have a little bit different take on that. I do feel that Trippi was the reason for the injuries. I think that from the body language of Bella in the video, when she did run away, it's very common to see such interest in interaction when there is an incident, but like what we saw with Trippi and Willow. And that, to me, there wasn't any indication that Bella was truly involved in the injuries. I do not believe that she has the same intention whatsoever. And I do believe that she was running at large. I do believe that she was curious at this very aroused situation. I'm inclined to dismiss the potentially dangerous order.
Lieutenant?
I guess I was looking at it in its totality, thinking, again, if they're both family members and the dogs are constantly together, should there be another incident, are the dogs going to react the same as the aggressive dog or the aggressive nature of Trippi? I think the potential. If there are no other reports, I'm open to removing it. This one incident is troubling in of its own. I mean, the mere severity of the injuries and the attack of its own is bad enough. But again, I don't know enough that, because the dog did seem to be sort of passively aggressive and moving away from the attack. This dog, if it was the dog I believe it to be, I would be willing to remove the order, potentially dangerous, from Bella. And let me be clear, Freya is the dog that the video was shown for, correct? The video that the owner submitted.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I would really on the fence here with dismissing it, but I would be open to dismissing the potentially dangerous or against Bella.
Gregory?
So based on the video that I saw, I could see definitely that Trippi was the initiator. Was the most aggressive. Bella, she even stepped aside. I don't know if I'm wrong. Did she stepped aside, even partially to like say, okay, maybe this is not right. I'm not saying that she was doing that, but it kind of seemed like that. What I was gonna say is like I'm kind of in favor with everyone. I can see that, yes, Trippi, but the other dog, she doesn't seem to have that same aggressiveness. So I would be willing to just drop it if we could.
Stephanie?
I'm in agreement with, it's a tough one. So that part I agree with everyone on the panel that it's tough because clearly Trippi is the instigator of the aggression. Dogs will naturally join in and be interested in the action and see what's going on. It's encouraging that Bella retreated and didn't continue pursuing, but then regained interest. I guess the question is that she'll be living in the same household as Trippi. You know, having that dangerous order for Trippi. I mean, what the problem is if they get loose. And you know, I know we're trying to separate these out, but they are interlinked. So I would say, you know, Trippi, we upheld that dangerous order and we need that fencing in, and if they're running at large, there's always this potential. But I would say for Bella specifically, looking at an individual dog, I'd be willing to reduce it to a warning. I don't know if that's possible versus dismissing. I mean, I think that this should be documented as if it happens again, but that ideally the situation is that Bella has was not the instigator, joined in but did retreat, so that's encouraging. And then if she's living in the same household as Trippi under these containment in terms of fencing and not able to get out, then likely this wouldn't be a problem. So that it's tricky. I'd be willing to discuss with the panel and what we all feel about reducing it to a warning.
Okay. I agree totally with Stephanie. I think we should reduce it to a warning so that it is documented due to the fact that the dog is living in the same environment as a dangerous dog that is, you know, bound by the mandates of that order. The dog is less likely to harm anyone else or get out, etc. But I think the important recommendations in the warning should still be in place. So do we have a motion?
Yeah, I can live with that. Yes.
What's your motion?
Oh no, I just said I can live with that. I agree with Stephanie that
okay.
It should be documented. It shouldn't be completely dropped. And yeah, that's a really good recommendation, Steph.
I move to reduce the potentially dangerous order for Bella to a warning.
I second. All in favor, raise your hand. It passes unanimously. Thank you. Philip. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Phil.
Yep,
Now
we
we
got
need to
the
discuss.
last call for Freya.
Yeah, we need to discuss the PDO on Freya. Ed?
Well, Freya, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, she's the white dog.
Yes.
White dog. And if I'm also not mistaken, you know, I'm keep playing that video in my head. I believe she retreated back to the fence area and then came back, and it looked like she was going back and forth to me, that she really wasn't. And then sometimes she stayed there. I think that particular dog had a lot to do with the incident itself. And I'd be willing to remove the potentially dangerous off of this particular dog. Yes.
In its entirety, or reduce it to a warning?
Well, she was involved, so maybe reducing it to a warning, to have it on record like previous might be better, but you know, so that it's not completely washed away. But I really got to say that I don't think that particular dog really did anything to contribute to the damage done to Willow. And as I looked at the video, it looked more like she was just excited and hopping around and going back and forth. So probably just an otherwise sweet dog that got mixed up in a melee that I don't think that she really sunk her teeth into anybody in that melee. I didn't see that in the video, and if we want to play it again, that might be a pain in the butt. But as I recall it, I don't think the white dog just kept running around in circles and going back to the fencing area and coming back. I may be wrong, but I think that that's what happened in the video.
Okay, Elizabeth.
I agree that Freya, again, I think she was very curious, and that's pretty instinctual, normal. I don't believe that she was responsible for the injuries, and I would consider dismissing the potentially dangerous order on Freya. I am definitely willing to discuss the reduction to a warning. I think, dog is obviously guilty of running at large. There could be a citation here. Just the same thing with Bella. I don't think that it will disappear from a record just because we've had this hearing. I think this will be on record. But I feel that we can, that I would be inclined to dismiss the potentially dangerous order on Freya.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
The dog does appear to be well socialized from the videos the owner showed. The extent of the injuries that it actually caused, I mean, it was a quick in and out. I do think it would be worthy to remove the potentially dangerous, but I think the warning is still applicable just because of the nature of the entire incident and the dog was involved. So I'm good with removing or lowering it to a warning.
Thank you. Gregory?
I'm in agreement with everything that's been said. Just I can see that Freya, the owner, is being proactive, and it also has evidence of being very social with other dogs. So I could definitely be inclined to just dismiss the potential and just keep it to a warning.
Stephanie?
Yeah, I think that the video showed that this dog is well socialized. I think that if this dog hadn't been running at large is probably the worst of that it did. And if they can keep this dog from running at large, there wouldn't have been this problem. And I think that the owner has shown responsibility to make sure that that never happens again. This is enough to put the fear in them to make sure of that, especially with that community so close by. So I feel that I'd be willing to dismiss this potentially dangerous order for Freya.
Okay, I would agree that this dog seems to be the least culpable of the three. It was running at large, but that seems to be the worst case. It did appear to be playing. It didn't appear to be aggressive or trying to, take a chunk out of that other dog. So with that said, do we have a motion?
Make a motion that we remove the potentially dangerous and reduce it to a warning.
Do we have a second?
I'll say.
Before I vote, is there? Can I get a little bit of clarification on the warning? Because is there going to be a record on it regardless, even if we just do it on a warning? Or
yes, okay. Yes. As a warning, the mandates that you find in a PDO or a dangerous order become recommendations in a warning, but they are still there, and the record is maintained.
But if we dismiss everything and including no warning, there won't be any record of this ever happening?
Technically, yes. I mean, Officer Thomas has a good memory, so if something should happen again, I think she would bring it up, even though it's not in the official record. But that's just my opinion.
It wouldn't be an official record.
Correct. Anything else?
No, that was all I needed. Thank you.
Okay. Stephanie? You're on mute. You're still on mute.
There we go.
Stephanie, you're still on mute. So do you want to say something?
It went off for like a second.
Sorry, my screen was completely frozen and it wouldn't let me unmute or anything. But here, so yeah, I guess so. The question is still on the table. What we have is a motion to reduce to a warning, and that's what we're working with right now.
Yes.
And we don't have a second on that, correct?
I'll second.
Okay. I mean, I'm okay with a warning as well. I mean, if we're, just to kind of hash this through and talk about it, I don't think there's anything wrong with the running at large. The warning would make that recommendation to keep checks on that fence that they have in place. That is important. So I feel that I don't have any problems with some documentation of maintaining that fence as a warning. I think that's fine too.
Okay.
So I guess we're ready. Someone did second, I heard, or?
Yes. So we have a motion to change this from a PDO to a warning, and it was seconded. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. Okay, Philip.
All right, I have that recorded. Robin is requesting we take a brief recess. We are attempting to address the one no-show we had for the Inderfirth case. She has since reached out, and Robin is addressing that now. So if it's all right, can we take 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
Appreciate it.
Okay, it's been 5 minutes.
Hey, Larry, we're going to need a little bit more time. I'm trying to get a hold of Curran from Office of Law, as well as the witnesses for the case, as well as the dog owner. So can you give us another, let's try 5? If you're talking, Larry, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I just unmuted. I have a question for Curran, and that is, since we've already voted on this case, what does that mean if all parties, come back into session?
Right, and I'm trying to get a hold of Curran, so I guess maybe he can't get any of my phone calls or texts because I'm here, so hopefully he can hear us now, and then I'm going to ask him to unmute, see if we can reach him that way while we're in recess, but everybody can hear us, just keep that in mind. And I'm going to go back on mute, Larry, because I'm trying to call the owner as well.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
All righty. So, appreciate everyone's patience here. There was some confusion with Ms. Enderfirth since she had two cases. One was an affidavit, one was an order, and since the affidavit was postponed, she assumed that the order case was also postponed, which is why she did not appear. She has since been in contact with us, but we're unable to get the witnesses back on the line. We spoke with Current, and he concurs that our best course of action would be to send out new notices for a future date. I believe him and Robin are discussing 20 days and just having a special session if it ends up working out for everybody. So I believe that this is it for the current commission hearing today, 7/6, and we'll address this, the Enderfirth case again at a future date.
Understood.
Philip, obviously we haven't got the minutes from the last meeting to review or vote on, so I assume we'll do that next time. We'll have to do two of them.
Yeah, I suppose what I can do is when the book comes back, I will include the printouts in your copy so that way you can sign off on them and just go from there as such.
Okay. So are we ready to make a motion to adjourn?
I believe so.
Okay. I make a motion to adjourn. We have a second?
Second.
All in favor? All right, thank you all. Talk to you later.
Thank you all for taking it easy on me.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone's patience. You all have a lovely day.
Thank you, Phil.
Good job,
I just
Phil.
want to
Thank
say,
you.
I just want to say thank you to everybody once again. Thank you to all the commission members. Thank you to Phil. He has done a great job learning how to do all of this and getting us all kind of prepped for this and dealing with the technical issues that we've had here, bringing people up and down and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, huge thank you to everybody. But the biggest thank you today goes to Phil for, you know, helping us get here and keeping us going. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.